80s rock ballad singer. But yeah. Actually, there are a lot of old men out there, especially where I live, that have the same hairstyle.
And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. 3 hours of sports talk radio excellence begins right now. Welcome in. Great to have you. Happy Thursday, y'all. What's shaking? How y'all doing? Everybody having a good week as we round it out?
What's shaking? My big behind. Yeah.
I believe we call that having wiggle. Like Stetson Bennett. You just got to have some wiggle. That's all.
It's only if it's tight, and it's not. So, no.
Well, here we are. I will also tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that
it could be like that hard part of the Jell-O, like at the bottom. I didn't sleep well last night.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm sorry. I coughed all night. So, yeah.
Lonzo walked into the office this morning, and the first sentence that he said to me is, "It's okay for your nipples to show if you're in shape." That was the sentence he opened our day with.
We were watching, you had wrestling on, and Daniel Bryan was standing in the ring and gauging temperature. Seemed quite cold there, but he was okay.
It's more fun to say it out of context.
Okay. All right.
It's okay for your nipples to show if you're in shape. That was the way that our day began, ladies and gentlemen. So the next 3 hours, are going to be very interesting. I'll just say that. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day. You're going to have a great time. Let's get into it because we are at no shortage of things to discuss, things to talk about on the radio broadcast today. I will tell you before we get going that Skrilla just texted the show. 71307 is the text line. Start your text with fan. Skrilla just texted the show and said that there is a wreck on Butler Road with a flipped car and a bus, and that lanes are blocked both directions right now.
The bus isn't flipped. The car is flipped.
That is my understanding.
Okay. All right.
But if you are headed any direction on Butler Road this AM, give yourself some extra time or go around while our first responders get that cleaned up, taken care of. We hope, obviously, that everyone involved is okay, but do be careful if you are headed in the direction of Butler Road, as we have a flipped car involved in an accident with a bus. Be very careful. Sports stuff. There's a lot of sports stuff to get to on the radio broadcast today. The Carolina Panthers have rounded out their coaching staff. We now have the staff full. And to say that the staff has caused optimism for one Rob Brown, someone who avoids optimism at all cost, would be accurate and correct. The question is, what's next for the Carolina Panthers? What's the next set of moves that the silver and blue need to make? I've got some ideas on that, and I'm going to tell you what they are coming up. And coming up in about 35 minutes from right now, we will, of course, be joined by Rashad Beard, the host of the Panther Nation podcast. He joins us every Thursday to break down Carolina football. So we'll talk to Rashad Beard coming up here in about 35 minutes from right now. Then it's Thursday, and you know what that means. Assuming that he doesn't fall asleep under the desk between here and 11:20, it's time for Fight Club with the great one.
Yeah, we're going all out. You know, you might as well.
We have staved off conversation about Saturday evening's Elimination Chamber to this point.
Sammy. Oh.
I put up, I don't know if you saw it or got to listen to it, Lonzo.
I did see a wonderful presentation that was put on our website, but no, I didn't get to listen to it.
It has been a while since the last time that a wrestling show, and this happens with basketball and football, we get done with natties, we get done with Super Bowls, we get done with big-time rivalry games and playoff games, and there are times that Rob Brown will feel compelled at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night to pop open the mic in his home studio and to discuss my knee-jerk reaction to an immediate situation. It's been a very long time since I felt that way about a wrestling show. Like a wrestling show finished, and I'm like, I got something to say, and I got to say it right now. But I did. So I popped the mic on Saturday and talked a little bit about the Elimination Chamber. If you haven't listened to it yet, you're certainly welcome to by going to the Fan Upstate podcast page. It's listed right up there, and it was laid down on Saturday night. Or you can just hang out till 11:20 when we do Fight Club, because I am sure that the results will come up. So you pro wrestling fans, there's your segment, 11:20 Fight Club with the great one, where we'll catch up on all things UFC, boxing, MMA, and pro wrestling. We got to get into that later on the show. You guys know there is nothing Rob Brown loves more than when science and sports intersect with each other. There is a study from a very reputable outlet that came out yesterday that has a small sample size. But I'm willing to say that it almost conclusively and empirically demonstrates that home field advantage at the professional level matters. I think home field advantage, the further down you go in the sports structure, starting with professional, going down to semi-pro, going down to college, going down to high school, going down to middle school, going down to Little League. I think home field advantage matters more the further down the sports hierarchy you go. But this study, at least in my opinion, and we'll get y'all's thoughts on it, this study, in my opinion, pretty much proves that even all the way up to the professional level, home field advantage matters. And that conversation is not just one that I want to have about home field advantage, but I want to discuss that study in the face of a discussion taking place within the National Football League right now that could impact, I was going to say all of us, but that could impact playoff teams every year. And we'll have that discussion later on in the show. Kevin Durant at the All-Star game said that players being able to not only demand a trade, but to demand a trade and be in control of the teams that they can be traded to is good for the NBA. Do we agree or do we disagree with that? I'm going to play the audio from KD later in the show. We'll see if you agree or disagree with it. We've also got the first, and I found this interesting. I meant to get to this yesterday, but we just got swamped up with time. We have got a major criticism that has been levied by a former player of one Eric Bieniemy about Eric Bieniemy. Now, we've been having the discussion about the reason that Eric Bieniemy just can't seem to get a head coaching job for really, honestly, 3 or 4 years now. But it really kind of came to a head this offseason when there were multiple NFL jobs looking for a new head coach. Eric Bieniemy did some interviews, but again, was passed over. Well, Eric Bieniemy, as we have mentioned, has made his way up to D.C., where he is now the OC for the Washington Commanders. Bum, 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 bum. A former player of Eric Bieniemy's has said something that I think is important to notate. And I think it is important to notate because we have discussed all the reasons that Eric Bieniemy can't get a job. We have discussed racism in the hiring practices at the highest level of the National Football League. We have discussed that Eric Bieniemy is not the chief play caller for the Kansas City Chiefs under Andy Reid, and that's a problem. We have discussed that Eric Bieniemy is apparently notoriously a bad interviewer, et cetera, et cetera. And my take has been there's enough smoke that I believe there may be a bunch of little fires. All of those things, I believe, have something to do with Eric Bieniemy's inability to get a job as a head coach. But now a former player has come out and added something to the table that I have not heard discussed in the past. And I find it very interesting. LaShawn McCoy, Shady, was on FS1 the other day, and he was discussing Eric Bieniemy. Now, Eric Bieniemy has been discussed a number of times as involved in one of maybe the most notorious name surrounding the possibility of prejudice behavior, racism at the highest level of hiring in the National Football League. And so obviously they asked LaShawn McCoy, do you believe that this is an issue with racism in the NFL? Do you believe that there is maybe something else that's not been discussed that has kept Eric Bieniemy from getting a job as a head coach? And LaShawn McCoy, oh man, he kind of popped. He kind of went off. When asked about Bieniemy, this is what he said, Lonzo. And I couldn't find the sound from it, unfortunately. But this is what LaShawn McCoy said. He said, quote, "What's his value? What makes him a good offensive coordinator? The problem is a lot of these people that go on social media, he should be the guy for the job, they haven't played there. I've been in the rooms where he's coaching, and he has nothing to do with the pass game at all. When the plays are designed, that's Andy Reid. When you talk about offensive coordinators, I can tell you what makes Brian Daboll with the Giants a very good coordinator. I can tell you about Andy Reid or Doug Peterson. But Eric Bieniemy, what makes him good? When we watch the film of practices and we correct the wide receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks, he doesn't talk in there. Andy Reid talks in there. I'm rooting for him because he's a black coach, and I love to see black coaches win. Also, he's a running backs coach, and running backs coaches never get a chance to be offensive coordinator. So I want him to do well. But if I have to do my job and be honest, my thing is, where is the true value at? End quote. So Shady says that Eric Bieniemy is not involved in the Chiefs' passing game. That's all Andy Reid. And when it's time to coach, right? Coaching is correcting. Coaching is educating and correcting. I'd say it's probably about 25%. This is how you do those things. And it's about 75% noticing when the little things are not being done correctly and correcting them so that players can take the 25% you've taught them and take them to the next level. And now we're being told by a former player that Eric Bieniemy is not directly involved in the Chiefs passing game. And when it's time to coach the guys up, when it is time to correct wide receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs, that it's all Andy Reid and it's not Eric Bieniemy. I find this interesting, Zoe, because we've talked about the main reasons that have been assumed that Eric Bieniemy can't get a job. Racism, lack of play calling, and riding Andy Reid's coattails and being a bad interview. And now we've got a player going, yeah, those things may or may not be true. But Eric Bieniemy does not involve himself in 50% of what the Chiefs do offensively. And when he does, he's not a coach. He doesn't coach up the guys. That's all Andy Reid. If what Shady is saying is true, Lonzo, then all the questions about why Eric Bieniemy has not gotten a job as an HC yet go right out the window.
All right, before I respond, I have to do something. Aaron Rodgers has emerged from his darkness retreat.
Oh, yes. Really?
According to several
Did he
sources
see a shadow,
on the internet.
and do we get 4 more weeks of contract holdouts?
I don't know. As far as the Bieniemy thing goes, Patrick Mahomes was on the Kelsey Brothers podcast.
Yep.
And they were talking about meetings and things like that. They talked more about Nagy than they talked about Bieniemy. And it seemed like Patrick Mahomes added Bieniemy at the end after they talked about all the other coaches. They threw him in at the end, and I thought that was kind of. And this was I don't know, maybe a month before the Super Bowl when he was on, and I thought that was kind of peculiar because if he was so integral to everything that they do on offense, he would have been more than likely the first guy they mentioned.
I agree with that. And to me, though it is circumstantial, that certainly does lend some credibility to the thought that what Shady McCoy is saying is correct, right? If Andy Reid is the guy that is primarily in charge, if Nagy and Peterson and these other guys that have been OC in that regime were the guys who were directly involved in, the element of the game that is Patrick Mahomes, that is the passing game, then you would assume that Patrick Mahomes would have some conversation there. But if he really and again, I haven't listened to that segment, Zoe has. If it sounds like, kind of threw Bieniemy out there as a footnote to the conversation, and oh, by the way, Eric Bieniemy's there too. If that's the way Mahomes prefaced it, added Bieniemy to the conversation, then I think it would make sense to say, yeah, Bieniemy's probably not as involved with the pass game like Shady McCoy is saying here, or else Mahomes, the guy who the pass game runs through, would likely have had some more to say about him. And then to take that one step further, if you don't mind brief extrapolation, to take that one step further, if Eric Bieniemy is not directly involved with and helping organize, orchestrate, run, and execute the passing game, then why the hell would you make him a head coach when he's only half an offensive coordinator? And that would make sense, right? Now, that does not mean that all of the other factors we have discussed are not still factors. It does not erase the potential for racism in hiring practices at the top of the NFL. It does not erase Eric Bieniemy not getting a crack because he's not a play caller, which, by the way, if he's not involved with the pass game, he obviously wouldn't be a play caller, right? Like you wouldn't have the guy calling pass plays if he's not a pass game coordinator. It doesn't erase that being a bad interview is not always the worst thing in the world. It doesn't take all those other things out of the discussion. But if what Shady McCoy is saying is true, and McCoy is not just making something up to get his podcast numbers up, as people are wont to do sometimes, if what he is saying is true, this all makes sense.
People don't do that. There have already been some backlash towards McCoy because remember, McCoy kind of was inactive.
Yep.
Even though he was active for some things, and some people think it's just a little bad blood towards Bieniemy. You know what we're going to find out? We're going to find out. That's what we're going to do. We're going to find out what he can do in Washington. But I think the people who want to make excuses right away will say, yeah, but look at who the quarterback is. Bob Howell, Peter Howell, whoever that guy is. We couldn't figure out his first name the other day. That they're going to say he went to a bad spot and you got to give him some time. I hope he does well. I really do. I hope he goes against the naysayers and brings Washington back to prominence. But it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, and again, this doesn't change the fact that Eric Bieniemy taking this job was something I think he had to do, right?
And the Chiefs, it doesn't look like the Chiefs really tried hard to keep him.
Yeah, but I mean, again, if what Shady McCoy is saying is true, why would you?
Yeah, lateral moves usually are only to prove yourself.
Right.
And that's what this is. It's a lateral move, but it's really a step down. It's not a lateral move because you're going from the highest level in the game to mid or lower level.
I would say it's a lateral move, not because, obviously he's going from a Super Bowl champion to the only team in that division that failed to make the playoffs this year. I wouldn't say it's a step down because the reasoning that Bieniemy took this job, I assume the reasoning.
All right. So it just slopes. It slopes a little bit.
A mild slope.
So it's just a slope.
It's a
I don't know.
Low angle ramp.
Yeah.
Down.
There we go. Where you would stumble if you wasn't paying attention, but for the most part, it's just it just went down just a little.
I think that if what Shady McCoy is saying here is accurate, it makes sense that Bieniemy hasn't been hired as a head coach. It makes sense that Kansas City would not put in a hell of a lot of effort to keep him, right? You're not coordinating half the game, and it is going to be demanded that you are one of the highest paid offensive coordinators. Why would we put that money in your pocket when Andy's doing half your job and being the head coach? That would make sense. But it also makes sense that Eric Bieniemy would leave Kansas City because, and here's the other thing, if EB was not directly involved in the passing game, it might be argued that that's because Andy Reid set it up that way, right? Andy Reid wanted to be the guy orchestrating the passing game, so he took that off the plate of Eric Bieniemy, and it's not going to change, right? He's not going to start his 2024 season with Andy Reid going, oh, by the way, I'm tired of being the passing game coordinator. It's you now. So EB's got to go somewhere else where he can run the entire offense and call the plays for it to prove that he's ready to go to that next level, to prove that he is HC material and to get his crack at the big headset. So all of these things, I'm not saying it makes them true, but if what Shady McCoy is saying here is accurate, Lonzo, now everything makes sense. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying it would all make sense.
It's so easy, or some people look at all the variables. It could be this, it could be this, it could be that, and go for the one thing that gets the most press. And that would be race. And that's the reason. But maybe it's just that he ain't doing anything there, really. Because the passing game, if Andy Reid's doing it all, and I know I can guarantee you believe that Andy Reid's doing all the passing game stuff, because I do too. And so what is he doing?
And that, honestly, that's a great question, right? What is he doing? What is if Eric Bieniemy is not, if what Shady McCoy is true, saying is true, then yes, Eric Bieniemy's doing half a job, right? Like half a job. Yeah, don't get me wrong.
And my understanding is that assistant coaches run practices in for their particular, group set.
Sure.
Was he running practice for?
That's what Shady said.
Yeah.
He said, look, let me find the exact quote. He said, when we watch the film of practices and we correct the wide receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks, he doesn't talk in there. Andy Reid does. Man, if you're the OC and you're sitting down for film time with the offense and you're not talking, that's not coordinating. That's not coordinating. That's just being a sounding board. That's just being a guy that Andy can bounce ideas off of and then make the final decision. I'm not saying what Shady McCoy is saying is true, because I don't know. And you don't know, and Lonzo doesn't know, and none of us know, all right? The only people that know are Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, Shady McCoy, and the guys that have been in the Kansas City locker room. And you're not going to see a lot of players who are willing to take this step out.
There's another way you can notice, is if Kansas City's offense drops off.
Correct. If we get to week 6 or 7 and Kansas City's offense is falling down, unless there's just a couple of big free agent changes that we circle and go, this is the reason, which, by the way, we did with Tyreek. That didn't work out for those of us who said the offensive production would go down. If the offense falls off this year, then I think we can write that off and we can go, okay, maybe Eric Bieniemy had a bigger piece to the puzzle than we thought he did. But if Kansas City comes out rolling, which, by the way, they are the second highest odds in the National Football League out of the AFC. I know, the disrespect.
Let me guess. Buffalo's number 1.
Correct.
They're going.
Actually, you're tied. You're technically tied.
I was going to say they're going to get it right eventually, or not.
Vegas doesn't think the offensive production, or at least it doesn't go down enough to stop them from making a Super Bowl run. But if those numbers crash this year, and Bieniemy and Washington's offense suddenly finds themselves having success, we're right back to where we were yesterday before Shady McCoy talked. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in a minute. South Carolina, Alabama was a hell of a basketball game last night, and I was raging at the end of it. I'll tell you why when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
QC.
Got a live for you guys. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Oh, here we go. Starting the day off. Texter says, oh, let me find it. Where'd it go? Fan, imagine that. An irrelevant Gamecock basketball team gets a mention before Clemson, who actually has a chance at going dancing. Great job, Gamecock Rog. Well, I know, Texter, that you can't see my very elaborate legal notepad show prep rundown here.
It's well written. It looks so artistic from over here.
It's excellent handwriting.
Yeah.
But right there at 10:25, I know Lonzo can't read it because I also write very small.
Yeah, and I don't have my glasses on.
But it says Clemson Hoops versus Syracuse. What the hell? Now you bring it? Because yes, your basketball.
See, I think because of the texter, and I know it's kind of playing into his hands, you should just skip that.
Skip that segment now.
Yeah, just do it. Just fully embrace the Gamecock part that he's accusing you of, or she's accusing you of, and just go full on. Why not?
I mean, it's kind of like my old third grade teacher, right? When one kid packs up early to go to recess before you're done with math class, now nobody gets to go to recess.
See, it was different in my day when one person did that.
Your teacher would chuck a desk.
No. Everyone got paddled. That's how it's. Yeah. There's one particular teacher, Miss Hazen. She'd pull your fingers back and pat you on the hand with a paddle. That by the way, is painful.
Nothing like beating children.
Yeah, and like well, it's perfectly acceptable back when I was in the 3rd or 4th grade.
Your basketball team will be talked about. Last night, you're right. To the national. By the way, your basketball team's going dancing if and only if you win the ACC tournament.
I'm gonna do whatever I can to derail it so it doesn't get talked about because you're a punk coming at us on the text line.
I like how I get beat up for being anti-Clemson when Lonzo is right here.
Well, yeah, but see, the thing is, people want to say, well, you're just hiding who you are. I come right out and say who I am. So, I mean, I'm not implying you don't. I think you're more unbiased, but you are wearing a jersey that says Carolina on it. And I mean, if someone looks on the stream, they're going to go, okay.
I support everybody who makes me money.
I know, I get it.
I'm the MJF of this radio station.
By the way, if you want to see what Rob is wearing, which is awesome, he gets the coolest clothes. I think he pays for them, but I don't know. He is Rob Brown.
I'm rich.
Yeah, 1%er, and also the talent. Go to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube and check it out because we're live on the air every day.
And Facebook.com/TheFanUpstate. So last night, the South Carolina Gamecocks playing at home were trying to pick up SEC win number 4. And they were trying to do it against the number 2 team in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, you'll remember that Alabama had a little bit of drama going on before this game, as a police testimony earlier in the day pointed out that Alabama superstar Brandon Miller, a National Player of the Year candidate, had brought the gun to former teammate Darius Miles that would be used minutes later in the shooting death of a 23-year-old mother outside of a Tuscaloosa bar. And there were a lot of calls that Brandon Miller should not be played in that game last night. Nate Oates came out and basically, in a cowardly act of self-preservation, just kind of dismissed the whole thing with the quote, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah, I'm going to go anytime you're bringing a gun to somebody outside a club in the middle of the night. That's the wrong place, wrong time. But it's not, oops, I was accidentally in the wrong place. I was at the wrong time. It was, I put myself in the wrong place at the wrong time. We'll come back to that discussion later on. Let's talk basketball. Brandon Miller did play last night for the Crimson Tide. He ended up putting 41 points up on the board in 43 minutes. He was 14 of 25 from the field, 6 of 13 from deep, and 7 of 8 from the stripe. But the most important basket that he scored was with a second left remaining in overtime to give the Tide a 78-76 lead. South Carolina would see Gigi Jackson get a half-court shot off at the buzzer that would hit glass, hit iron, be about as close to going in as the ball can get without going through the hoop, and giving the Gamecocks the win. I have 2 takeaways from this. First and foremost, With seconds left on the clock, Miller drove to the rack. Hayden Brown from Greer, South Carolina, got all bleeping ball and was called for a shooting foul. It would send him to the line, knock down the couple, tie the game up, create the overtime necessity. Hayden Brown laid down the cleanest block I have seen probably this season in college basketball. Last night, I'm watching this game, laying in bed. I'd gotten home from the Swamp Rabbits game. I had had some dinner. I had taken the shower. I cleaned up to lay down and watch the last 10 minutes of this game. The lady friend had her 8 to 5 yesterday. She was exhausted, did some training. She had gone to bed. We're both laying there watching this game.
Wait. What time were you?
Oh, this was like 10:15.
Okay, but you went to bed a little bit earlier and you were watching the game. I'm just saying that sounds kind of old.
I was feeling it yesterday.
Just putting it in there. Old.
Yeah.
I mean,
yesterday was a long day. Today's a long day. I had the show yesterday.
I mean, I recognize because I've been there for a while. I just want to say thank you, and your AARP card is in the mail.
Don't want it. Can't refuse it. Had a long day. Had the show. Had like 3 meetings after that. Had a Greenville game last night. I was feeling it. So I'm like, let me lay in bed to watch the end of this game. I'm laying in bed, very much enjoying the back and forth. It's just a great game between a South Carolina team that everybody thought was going to get smoked by like 40 and an Alabama team that was battling through some adversity and criticism because of Nate Oates' comments in his press conference 2 days ago. Hayden Brown throws down the cleanest block you'll see in college basketball. Very clearly got all ball. They showed the replay and I was offended. It was such a clean block in process, full speed, that from the side camera angle, I saw it was all ball. And when I heard the whistle, both the girlfriend and the dog jumped when I went, what the bleep? I was infuriated. And as us elder millennials are wont to do sometimes, the only thing I could do was head straight to the phone, jump straight on Twitter, and send out the tweet that said, South Carolina just got screwed. That was 100,000% all ball. And point out that was, quote, the single most egregious miscall of this entire college basketball season, end quote.
You're not a true millennial. You didn't quote yourself when you were doing that.
I just did it on the air,
though.
Yeah,
yeah, but you should have said, and I quote.
And I quote.
Yeah, I mean, quote yourself.
Signed, Rob Brown.
There you go.
Delivered by Rob Brown of The Rob Brown Show. It was, I'll put it this way. If this horrendous of a call got made at the NBA level, the accusations of this game being rigged would be through the roof. If this egregious of a miscall happened at the NFL, you would call it the 2019 NFC Championship game. That is how egregious this call was. It was clearly in action. This wasn't even one. This isn't even one that you can go, officiating basketball's hard, right? It's a fast game. It's a high contact game. It's a game that's difficult to get the calls right because this one was not. And if this foul is not called, Hayden Brown sends the ball out. There are seconds remaining. Instead, Miller went to the line, missed the first, hit the second. The game ends up tied up. It ends up going to OT. and Bama escapes with their lives in a win that they did not deserve. Now, the second part of this discussion is this. I also said last night that if Lamont Paris can get this team playing this way in this caliber of a game, Ray Tanner might be owed some apologies down the line. Ray Tanner might be owed some apologies because the team that took the floor wearing garnet and black last night was a good basketball team. Tough defense last night out of South Carolina. Michi was hitting enormous threes last night. He hit one from damn near half court to wrap up the first half. Bama had built them some momentum. Michi knocked down a three from nearly half court. Then all of a sudden you went, damn, maybe the Gamecocks got a crack at this. Gigi made his first sincere full-length game since the IG Live, right? When he went live and he got all the criticism brought down on him, Gigi Jackson last night went 42 minutes, put down 19 on 8 of 22 of 6 from deep, 1 of 2 from the stripe. Ended up collecting 3 rebounds, had an assist, a steal, and 2 blocks to his name as well. Now, I would have liked more out of Gigi Jackson out of 42 minutes. But he was also locked up one-on-one against Brandon Miller, who might be the baddest college basketball player on the planet right now. The dude is ridiculous. Gigi is a guy that has not played a 42-minute game in what, 2 weeks? He got thrown into the teeth of the number 2 team in the country last night, and he did enough, but also was able to demand attention to open up the floor so that Michi could get 18, so that Jacoby Wright could step up and get 18. Gigi did exactly what I needed Gigi to do last night. He demanded presence from the number 2 team in the country to allow other guys to make plays around him, and they did that. And if it wasn't for the blown call on Brown, that was not a foul. That gave Alabama the tie. South Carolina would have won this game in regulation. And if the takeaway from this game is Lamont put this team in a position to win, and they played their asses off to win that game, if they can capsule what they did last night and make it the rule, not the exception, Ray Tanner might be owed some apologies, but we got to see how he recruits the next cycle first. If he can recruit well and then bring this team mentality to the floor, Lamont might have something. We'll talk Clemson's big win over Syracuse later on in the show unless Lonzo derails us. It's the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Not why I'm shaking my head.
Because I forgot Rashad's coming up. I'm going to push him to 10.
I mean, I should remember too.
No, that's completely my fault. Yeah, I blew that. Tyreek Hill just tweeted, "Shady mad. Bieniemy told him to tuck that ball."
Yeah, that's an old. He did it right after he
did
the thing. Yeah.
Consolidation loan from LightStream from $5,000 to $100,000 and pay off those credit card balances. Apply online and you can get your money as soon as the day you apply. The average credit card company charges over 19% APR. But with Lightstream. You can get a fixed rate as low as 7.99% APR with auto pay and Exxon credit.
Now I can pay off my high interest credit card and save money at a much lower rate.
Apply today at
Texter said Lonzo, Coach Willie Varner drilled holes in his paddle so he could swing it harder. I got paddled for mooning the school bus in high school.
Yeah. Supposedly, yeah, back in the day, the drilled in holes, all the kids thought it hurt more.
Yeah.
But really, it was for aerodynamics.
I got to appreciate putting ingenuity into how you beat children.
I think it works better if you're like the guy who teaches wood shop because you have like inside knowledge, or the science teacher.
Fair enough.
I rarely got in trouble for something that I did. I usually got in trouble for something my friends did. So when I did get in trouble, it's because I smarted off to the teacher, believe it or not.
Nuh-uh.
I know.
No way.
Daggum smart mouth to get you nowhere, boy. Did you make yours fragile? I guess you don't want to make your paddle splintery, Steven, because that could come back to haunt you and hurt you. I thought all those things hurt till I got to fraternity and I got hit with a cricket bat by an all-star baseball player who swung really hard, whatever. It hurt really bad.
Not to
Yeah, man, I don't care.
no, not to dissuade the conversation taking place.
Change it into something more serious.
I have just been informed that the next witness to take the box at the Alex Murdaugh trial is Alex Murdaugh.
Yeah, but
put him on the stand.
They had asked that he not be asked questions about the financial problems and the
They can ask, but the judge already ruled that
Right.
they can be brought up. So they can
Yeah,
ask.
but
He can take the fifth on him all he wants.
Yeah, but I think the judge said no. I heard some sound on it coming in this morning. Yeah, mooning is like the ultimate dare from your boys. It is, for sure. Except if you live in Florida, which I'm sure mooning is no big deal in Florida. And since he's not responding, that means it must be true.
All right, Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast going to join us at 10 o'clock, top of the hour, straight up in about 10 minutes from right now. We will have Rashad Beard join us. We'll break down the Panthers. They have ratted out their coaching staff. So what is next on the agenda for Frank Reich and his new staff? We will break that down with Rashad Beard here in about 10 minutes from right now. Remember at 11:20, Fight Club with Lonzo, where we will run down all the comings and goings in AEW, WWE, UFC, professional boxing, all things combat sports. The only station in the upstate that talks combat sports is the Fan Upstate. The only show in the upstate that talks professional sports is the professional combat sports is the Rob Brown Show. So stick around for that as well. By the way, real quick, now I don't mean to dissuade or put off any of you from listening to this show, but I find it very interesting and I needed to bring it up because I, for whatever reason, am just enamored by this. But apparently, Alex Murdaugh will take the stand today in his own defense. And it's going to be interesting because earlier in the discussion, the judge ruled that the financial crimes, which I believe that the prosecution is intending to argue may have been a catalyst and or full out motive for Murdaugh to be involved in the deaths of his wife and son, could be discussed during the murder trial, right? They could be discussed, but now I am reading that Murdaugh will take the stand, but will not field questions about the financial crimes, which is obviously damaging to the prosecution if that was indeed the strategy that they were trying to employ here, was to connect the financial crimes as a potential motive in the actual homicides that he is charged with here. But Alex Murdaugh, this is, I don't know, man, I'm a little surprised. Like with that, they have already found 3 or 4 kinks in Murdaugh's story so far that make this so damn compelling, right? Like, I think that's why this has been so interesting, is that about every 3 days in this trial, there has been another inconsistency in his story that has been found. So I think putting that guy on the stand with all of those inconsistencies requiring an answer, like, is he going to do anything more than just repeatedly take the fifth every time they ask him about one of those? And if he does, right, if he offers no reason why the stories have changed, I think it can only be damaging to the defense.
I also heard, and this is mostly for you, that the Netflix show about it like dropped today.
There's been a couple of shows or documentaries out about this. Is there? So there's a new one coming out
from Netflix. Yeah.
So this whole thing started because there was a journalist from either Charleston or Columbia who really deep dove into this right as it was all happening, because she kind of started connecting the dots between the boating accident that his eldest son was involved with, the financial crimes of Murdaugh, followed up by the murders, and started connecting dots through her own investigation. And then obviously it became a thing that people were really fascinated by, and to the point that they decided to effectively make this trial nationally broadcast. So it's a little bit shocking that Murdaugh is going to take the stand with all this going on around it. Anyway, we'll see how that goes later on. When we come back, Rashad Beard is the host of the Panther Nation podcast. Frank Reich has rounded out his coaching staff. So what's next up on the agenda? We'll get Rashad's thoughts. I'll give you mine when we come back. He is Lonzo. I am Rob Brown, and you are listening to The Rob Brown Show. You are listening to The Fan Upstate.
Thank you, Kevin, for that, because you're pointing out that that's not abnormal, that a lot of that stuff happened to me. Although, as Rob mentions, there was a teacher in high school who would shove entire desks, throw trash cans at people and stuff. If we didn't chant loud enough, because for algebraic formulas, he had chants, and you had to basically say them over and over again, because, you know, one of the easiest ways to remember something is as a song. A good method, but, you know, the fear didn't help, or maybe it did. Did pretty well in that class. Unfortunately, I was in the front row, so there was debris on occasion. Couldn't get away more than likely with all that stuff now, because someone will whip out their cell phone and record it. And that's not a bad thing.
I had in Woodruff Middle School, I had a teacher named Miss Lily Mae Brown, and this lady would throw any object in reach.
So you just had it lucky. That's all, Rob. You didn't.
Dude, none of my teachers ever threw any. That's not true. I had a middle school teacher. What was his name?
Don't say last names. That's just. I mean, just
Don't say last names.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure this guy's dead now because he was like 70 when I was in middle school, and that was
it had me
25 years
thinking.
ago.
I called the lady who hit me on the hand old. Maybe she was like 30.
Yeah.
I mean, because the gray hair hits people at different times. But when you're a little kid, you think everybody is ancient.
My fourth grade teacher was named Miss Myers. She was beautiful, right? But as a fourth grader, I was like, oh, she's beautiful, but she's old. And I found her on Facebook the other day. She was genuinely like 26 when she was my teacher. Like she's only like 56 now. Like she's young.
Did you get a response back from him?
Yeah, he's coming on at 10. He should be here in a second.
Great show, new time. Now 9 to noon, only on the Fan Upstate. Now CBS Sports Radio.
On your radio at 97.7 FM, 1330 AM, Greenville, 97.1 FM, 950 AM, Spartanburg.
Listen on your phone, download the Odyssey app, and search the Fan Upstate.
There's a whole lot more to know about sound, but you really want to go into the subject.
Your smart speaker.
I'm to the point now, because of this one texter, that I almost kind of want to lean into the character of secret Gamecock fan and Clemson hater Rob Brown, who never acknowledges that that's the truth. Just for that one guy.
You don't need a heel turn. You're already there. So why not?
The double heel turn.
Yeah, but that would
The
be
heel turn
the double heel turn would be you having a Clemson shirt underneath what you're wearing right now. That would be the double heel.
The heel who turns on the fans who are a fan of the heel. It's a rarely gone to trope, but it's massively important. Our new minute to the Rob Brown Show starts now. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Brown and the great one Lonzo with you on a beautiful Upstate Thursday morning. To all of you listening from other portions of the world, whether it's on the stream at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, or on Twitch or YouTube by searching and subscribing to The Rob Brown Show. We welcome you in. Whether you are listening on your smart device by telling Siri or Alexa to play 97.1 The Fan Upstate and listening that way, or whether you are listening for free on the Odyssey app, AUDACY, we welcome you into the show as well. Oh, and BT Dubs. I tried to get it set up for the Super Bowl. It didn't work out. It took some time because there were some technical issues, but I want you all to get the Odyssey app. All right. I know you get I don't know about y'all. I get so daggum tired of having an app for everything, right? I ordered a package the other day. I ordered a custom jersey, a new baseball jersey that I had customized. And I bought it off a website. And I don't know about you, I'm the type of dude, Zoe, that when I order a package online, I like to be able to track it, right? I like to know when it shipped, where it is in the process. I like to know, most importantly, when it's arrived at my door, because there are a bunch of cheering in my hood, and the last thing I want is to end up in a spot where my Amazon package gets dropped off on my front porch, and I come home and it's not there.
All right, this is not because I'm old, and you're going to say it's because I'm old. I've never ordered a package online.
You're old.
My wife does.
How do you survive without ordering stuff online?
Because my wife does it.
Oh, well, that's okay.
I
so
mean,
then you have.
You got your business side and you got your entertainment.
Fair enough.
I'm the entertainment.
So I want to know where it is in the shipping route so it doesn't get taken off my porch. But this company that I ordered from the other day was like, if you would like to track your package, not only did I have to download the app to make the order, but then I had to download a separate app to track the package. And I'm like, I don't want to fill up my phone with 1,000 apps, but I want you all to get the Odyssey app. And I'm asking you to get the Odyssey app for two reasons. Number one, you can listen to the station live around the clock. You can listen to the DA show in the mornings, the Rob Brown show in the late mornings, Jim Rome during the day, Offsides with Mark Ryan in the afternoon, and the wonderful CBS programming overnight. But the other reason is we just rolled out a new feature called Odyssey Go Live. And basically what this does is allows me and Zoe and Mark and Diesel and whoever else that we want to involve to go live on the app at any point without having to go on the air. We just plug it up on the cell phone, hook it up to the mic, and we can talk about anything at any point. And I love this tool predominantly because it is going to give us the opportunity to talk about stuff, sports related and not sports related, as it's happening in real time, right? So we can go live to talk about the Murdoch stuff. We can go live to talk about anytime that Carolina hires a new coach. Bang, we're right there live with you. And not only can you guys tune in and listen to that broadcast, but you can be a part of it. You can ask to speak within this thing, and we can bring you on the broadcast with us and answer your questions and have conversations with you guys, the Rob Brown Armada, as well. So grab the Odyssey app, AUDACY. Make sure you search for and subscribe to the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate and get those push notifications enabled, because I very much plan on starting to use that Go Live feature over the next couple of days to have these conversations with you guys when we are not within our normal broadcasting window. It's going to be a good time. Now, speaking of good times, it's Thursday, and you know what that means. We ordinarily do this a little later in the show, but Rob Brown is terrible at time management and screwed the pooch on his own show schedule. So Rashad Beard is not only handsome, but gracious enough to push back his schedule to join us here on the show and talk a little football. The host of the Panther Nation podcast joins us live. What's up, big dog?
Wait, does that work, Rashad? If someone calls you handsome and all that good, does that work? Does that
I already know it. I already know that. So yeah, and I already know that. So
good.
it doesn't really help too much.
Already
it's just it's just confirmation. All right.
See, ladies and gentlemen, that's why Rashad and I get along. How you feeling, big dog?
What's good, man? Everything is well. All is well over here.
I love to hear. All right. Let's start with what's happened and then get to what's going to happen next. And we start with the fact that Frank Reich has ratted out the coaching staff. We know who's in. We know who's out. I'm going to say this. The biggest compliment, Rashad, that I can give to David Tepper, to Scott Fitterer, to Frank Reich in filling out this coaching staff. As an analyst, I'm like, that's a damn good staff. But the bigger compliment is, as a Saints fan, I'm like, oh, hell, dude, come on, man. Like, as a Saints fan, I look at this staff, and I'm like, that's the best staff in the NFC South right now.
Clearly, like not even close. I would argue in the NFL, to be honest with you. And again, that's only a part of it. Again, the players have to play, they have to execute. And Frank Reich mentioned that. He said this staff is great and all, but we got to have the players to execute. And so, on paper, yeah, it's solid. I'm hoping that it translates to W's. And I like the fact that it appears, and I've been saying this, and I have been the biggest. I've been critical of Tepper, and he has completely flipped. He flipped everything, right? We went from the worst scenario, the worst coach ever in Panther history, to now looking at potentially the best staff on paper that we've ever had. And so I commend him for essentially opening up the checkbook. We know there is no salary cap for head coaches, and a lot of these guys, or coaches, period. A lot of these guys got a check. They got a nice. I'm sure they got a lot of money to come coach here in Carolina, and so. No expense was spared, I'm sure, given the names that are on this roster, on this coaching staff. And so I love it, and I appreciate Tepper for learning from his mistakes.
Frank Reich said that same phrase a couple of times, right? There's no salary cap to a coaching staff. David Tepper made it clear, and you and I have both been exceptionally critical, and I think fairly so, of David Tepper over the last couple of years. I think it was Tepper's ego that hired Matt Rule and put us through the last couple of years of the Matt Rule tenure. I think the relationship going sour in Rock Hill with the new training facility, the new headquarters, left a very sour taste in a lot of Carolina Panthers fans. I think there's been a lot of justified criticism, but the fact that when Frank Reich showed up, Tep took a positive step and basically said, here's the checkbook, get your guys, right? Ejiro Evero, by the way, the new DC, and a great pick, I think we also agree on that, was still interviewing with the Indianapolis Colts when he decided to stay in DC in Carolina, which means it's most likely that Tep put a hell of an offer in front of him. I'm not saying that repairs all of the bumps in the road of the David Tepper era in Carolina, but it let out a couple of sighs of relief, didn't it?
Yeah, it goes a long way for me because it shows me, number one, you admitted it, right? You know you did some wrong here, and a lot of fans, a lot of folks in basement Twitter that he named us were complaining. I think he saw that, and now he's making it right. And for the fact that we got Evero, the fact that we got Thomas Brown, these guys were hot names out on the head coaching circuit. These guys are getting head coach interviews. And to get them on this staff is amazing. And so now the question is, Kim, how long are we going to keep them, right? Because if we're successful, you got to start to look towards the future a little bit. It's tough because you want to live in the moment. You're excited, but just looking, playing it forward a little bit. These guys are probably going to end up being short-term coaches here, especially if we're successful, right? If we're going and making a huge playoff push, NFC South champion or NFC championship, something like that, these guys are getting plucked immediately, which is not a bad thing because I think that speaks to Frank Reich, and he mentioned that he wants these guys to go out there and get coaching jobs elsewhere. That's a part of building a good staff, and those guys are going to end up being successful elsewhere. So it is what it is. But as of right now, I love the staff. And I'm looking forward to seeing these guys coach on the sidelines moving forward.
It's interesting. I think one of the other things it does for you down the line, Rashad, if guys like Evero do end up being a one season DC, et cetera, if the new OC out of Los Angeles ends up being a one season guy, Thomas Brown, and he gets an HC job elsewhere, as it is rumored he will. The other thing it does is it shows future superstar coordinators, et cetera, that this is a launch pad. Like, this is a place you can come, be under Frank Reich for a year or two, really cut your teeth in these coordinator positions and get opportunities to advance down the line. And I think for all of us, I mean, I don't care whether you're an NFL coach or a radio guy or a podcast or whatever, I think a lot of us base employment options that we decide to explore based on what are my opportunities for advancement, right? Like if you've ever done a job interview and you're not asking what are the advancement opportunities here, you're doing the job interview wrong. I think if that turns out to be the case, while it will ding up the consistency of building year to year, it's also going to put you as a top flight destination for the next superstar coordinator. And if you're David Tepper, while you may not want to rotate coordinators every couple of years, if you have to, the fact that it's because your guys are going to be head coaches elsewhere and the next round of superstars looks at you as a destination where they can do the same thing, that's good, as opposed to teams that lose coordinators because they suck every year.
Yeah, no, and you hit the nail right on the head. I think if you want to look at an example of that, go take a look at the San Francisco 49ers. They do a great job. I mean, their guys are getting picked up every year. Their defensive coordinators getting picked up. You know, they got Saleh, and then they just got Texans coach came from there. So there's a lot. D'Amico Ryans, a lot of guys are coming from those systems, and they're still able to be successful. The fact of the matter is you got to get that top guy. I think Frank Reich, he's already got a nice little tree. When you look at Sirianni, like he's already built the tree before he even got here. And so I think that speaks to a great point. It's something to keep an eye on. And I absolutely, you know, if I'm a hot shot young coordinator, I'm looking to come somewhere where I know I can get a head coaching job in the next couple of years, I'm coming to Carolina. So I think it's a great point. Great point.
Rashad Beard is the host of the Panther Nation podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to them on Twitter at Panther Nation PC, but more importantly on YouTube by searching and subscribing to the Panther Nation podcast. So let's turn our attention, Rashad, away from what has happened in the rounding out of the coaching staff to what is going to happen next. And obviously the next question is, how do we start looking at this roster? Now, we know we got the draft coming up, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But the first thing is free agency. And there's some names on there for Carolina. Bradley Bozeman is on that list. That's a guy I'd like to see back. But the biggest name of all, and while I don't typically lose my mind over free agent running backs because there are a lot of them, and we see a lot of guys get that second deal with a team and then fall off a little bit, am I nuts for thinking that Deontay Foreman is priority number one?
Yeah, no, he's got to be high on the list. And you guys know how I feel about the running back position. It is the most replaceable position in the NFL. We obviously saw that here in Carolina. I know there were a lot of people pounding the table for C-Mac. But listen, we were able to replace his production with the two guys between Chuba and Deontay Foreman. I think we need to bring that tandem back. Deontay Foreman brings something to the game that we have not seen here since, Jonathan Stewart, Stephen Davis back in the day. Like, he's a physical running back, and people, as great of a mind that Frank Reich is, people forget that he loves to run the football. So I think we found something, and shout out to Steve Wilkes. I think he found something in that run game. And with the offensive line, you talked about Bozeman, bringing him back. If we can continue that offensive line and bring some continuity there, I think bringing that Foreman back is going to bring double trouble back. And I think we're going to have a good running game next year as well. So I think he should be priority. I would say priority number one. I would say Bozeman's probably priority number one for me. But number 1B is probably going to be Deontay Foreman for sure. We got to bring him back.
Let's talk about another big name who's been a contributor, set for a $24.5 million hit against the cap this year, is Shaq Thompson. Now, you got two options here, Rashad. Option one is you cut Shaq Thompson and you save that money. Option two is that you restructure him, which means you're going to have to extend him a little bit. He is 29 years of age. He'll be 30 when the next season kicks off. Now, I think you bring Shaq back, and it's not just because his production's been good. But Shaq Thompson, to me, is built like an interior linebacker for a 3-4, which is what Ezra Rivera was going to primarily run. He said that in his press conference earlier this week. It's a hybrid guy. He'll run some 4-3, some 5-2, heavy box, light box at you, but he's going to lean on a 3-4, and Thompson is like a perfect prototype 3-4 backer. I want Shaq Thompson back.
Yeah, and I think not only from an X's and O standpoint, I think Shaq Thompson he's a leader on this team. You look at, we don't have a really face of the team if you think about it. And I think that Shaq Thompson, he's been around for a long, long time. In fact, he was around the last time we ran a 3-4 with Rivera back in 2019. So he's been around for a minute. I believe that was like a second or third year in the league at that time. But he's been around for a minute, leader on the roster. leader on that defense. And I think you should bring him back. Now, financially, we have to make it work. Again, that $13 million that we could save, or $13 million cap hit that we could avoid, or 24, whatever it is, we would have to extend him. So I wouldn't mind extending him for maybe the next couple of years, maybe like a 2 or 3 year extension, get him into his early 30s, and then you make a decision there. These linebackers can play until they're up there. The only thing I have a little concern about is as he gets older, the ability to cover, because when you switch to that 3-4 defense, you have your interior linebackers have to be able to cover. And so I have some concerns there. Even though he's a converted safety, I get it. As he gets older, those legs are going to slow down a little bit. So you have to start to plan. So in that, if I'm going to extend Shaq Thompson, I'm also going to draft somebody young that can replace him in the next couple of years.
Plenty of picks to do it with as well. And of course, the other spot that we have been having the discussion, and it feels like I've been asking you every week, and spoiler alert, I probably will as we get up to and through the draft, is the quarterback spot. My thought has been, and I said this on the show earlier this week, I'm curious to get your thoughts. If Lamar Jackson is put on the block by the Baltimore Ravens, the only reason that would happen is because Lamar wants Deshaun Watson money. He's going to want 5 years. He's going to want a $250 million, and he's going to want it all guaranteed top to bottom. If that is the case, are you willing to give him that? Because to me, if he's demanding that big of a contract, there's only going to be a couple of teams that are willing to go that hard for Lamar Jackson, right? There's not going to be a lot of teams that A, have the ability to under the cap, or B, have an owner that's willing to invest that much. Are you willing to do that if the price for a trade for Lamar ends up being what I think it is? Because the demand will be low. I think Lamar can be got for like a first and a third, maybe a first and a second. If that is on the table, but it's going to cost you 5 years guaranteed at $250 million, are you still in like I am on Lamar?
That is such a hard question because I love Lamar. But when you look at the way this team is constructed, I don't know that we can, from a financial standpoint, I don't know if we can. That's not true because I think we can. I think we can afford it. I think when you look at the way teams are built nowadays, you really want to capitalize on that rookie contract. And I think there's only a few teams that have been able to win a Super Bowl with a quarterback consuming that amount of the salary cap, right? From the quarterback position, right?
Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly. So it's very rare that happens. So if I'm looking at, listen, I have to take my fan hat off and look at it from what's good. That's how I operate my channel, right? It's not just about operating within my feelings. It's about looking at the trends and what the league is doing. And when I look at that, I want to get my young quarterback. So I'm doing whatever it takes to get the young quarterback rather than getting the elite. I know he's elite. I know he's great. But if I had a choice, give me the young quarterback on a rookie deal versus the franchise quarterback in Lamar Jackson. Just because I know that the franchise quarterback, again, the salary cap, I'm rolling with the young quarterback.
All right, so I looked this up, and I brought this up on the show. We had this exact discussion yesterday, and so far, Lonzo's over here pounding his chest because you're in his corner, not mine, all right? So we went and we pulled every time since 1979 that an NFL team has traded up in the first round to get a quarterback. It has happened 29 times.
Mm-hmm.
5 of them went to and or won a Super Bowl. The last one being Mahomes, right? So you're hitting, if you trade up in the first round for a quarterback, at about a 17% success rate for franchise quarterbacks. There's about 5 more that have been really good, but you had to build a complete team around them. They weren't like Mahomes can carry a good team. They built a great team, but Mahomes could carry a good team to a Super Bowl. There's been 5 or 6 quarterbacks that were like, they're really good, but they needed a team around them. So my question here is, you can go Lamar and a big paycheck for him for a guy that you know is capable of doing it, or you can go like a first, a second, a third, and a fifth, or a first, a second, and 2 fourths for C.J. Stroud, who has a 1 in 5 chance of being an elite caliber quarterback. when you look at it by the numbers instead of by the names, does that sway you at all, or are you still locked in?
No, I think, or the other option that wasn't discussed is that I could just stay at 9 and pick whoever's there, right?
Sure.
I think that's an option too. I don't necessarily have to sell the farm, but again, I still think because of the quarterback coach or the head coach that I have in Frank Reich, who I know can develop quarterbacks, I still would like to lean on the fact that I can get a young quarterback here and develop him rather than, again, it's about winning Super Bowls, right? It's not about playoffs for me. I want whatever it takes. I literally mean this. Whatever it takes to get a Super Bowl, that's what I want to do. And so when I look at the trends and I look at the, see what's going on around the league, I see that I have a better chance of winning on a rookie deal with the quarterback on a rookie deal than I do with a big money quarterback. That's just my opinion. I'm sticking with it.
That's fair. I like it. Sticking to the guns. Rashad Beard is the host of the Panther Nation podcast. Follow him on Twitter at Panther Nation PC.
All right. You don't like it. I mean, come on. You don't like it.
No.
You don't like it.
I like that he's sticking to his convictions. I disagree with his convictions, but I like that he's sticking to them.
You want to retread. You want the Panthers to do what they've done the last couple times. It hasn't worked.
It's not a retread.
It's time to go.
Wait.
By the way, you're reaching with the Lamar and with Aaron Rodgers, even though he just emerged from his darkness retreat and now is probably available. You're reaching. I mean, those are dream guys that you could get.
Correct. But Rashad said what? My number one goal is not the playoffs, it's the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers has won one. Rashad, do we both agree that Lamar Jackson is good enough to win one?
I agree.
Would you guarantee me that CJ Stroud or Bryce Young is?
I can't guarantee anything. No,
exactly. I can guarantee you, Rodgers.
And you know what? You can't guarantee that Lamar is either because he hasn't done it yet.
I don't disagree. But if you ask me if I had to pick, if you one year, right? Because here's the other factor in all this, Rashad. The NFC South is still going to be a dumpster fire next year. There's not going to be some revival renaissance in this division. The Saints are trash. The Falcons, unless they do something cray-cray and go get them a QB, are going to be Atlanta. And Tampa Bay, we saw what they were with Brady. Imagine what they're going to be the same team without him. The Carolina Panthers have one advantage that the Colts do not have, that every other team that is in the mix for a quarterback doesn't have. It's that the launch pad for a run to the Super Bowl is the easiest out there to lift off from because the South is trash, which means that if you are a Super Bowl or bust guy, I am all in for 2023. I'll worry about 24 down the line because this is the best chance the Panthers have had in 20 years to win a Super Bowl. If I got to go all in for 1 year, which if Super Bowl or bust is your mentality, you have to. 1 year, I can guarantee Lamar Jackson gives you a better odd than CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. I can guarantee that Aaron Rodgers, one season removed from an NFL MVP award, gives you a better chance than CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. So if it's 1 year Super Bowl or bust, Rashad, Rodgers and Jackson, I'll take Stroud over Derek Carr. I'll take Stroud over Jimmy Garoppolo. But for 1 year, Jackson or Rodgers is the right play.
Yeah, so here's the thing with that. You're right. I think you're right that those quarterbacks do give you a better option. However, I don't think that the team is constructed in the manner that 1 year is going to be guaranteed that we're going to be successful. I don't think the defense is going to be where we want it to be to make that final push. Like if this was year 2 of Reich's system in place and we had the defense, we had the weapons, we had everything, and then we just missing that quarterback, then absolutely. But that's why I want to have CJ Stroud, because you give him that couple development years, and then by year 2 or year 3, he's at peak talent, and then everything around him is also at peak. So you have an entire team that's peak, and we're not just relying on a quarterback to win us a Super Bowl. That's my thought process.
Thank you for leaving me with Lonzo after this interview, Rashad. I appreciate it.
That's just
Rashad Beard is the host of the Panther Nation podcast. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube. Appreciate you, big dog. We'll talk next week.
Absolutely. Let's do it again.
We will. That is Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast on YouTube, Panther Nation PC on Twitter. We'll have him back next Thursday. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. My loving, dear, sweet mother just texted me and said, "You know I love you more than life. But the reality of how nerd-like you and Lonzo look next to Rashad just struck me. Kissy face emoji. Thanks, Mom. My biggest supporter.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We know how
We
cool
know it.
we know how cool Rashad is, and we're hanging with him.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's
Every time I go to
there's
show,
that.
Rashad comes up and buys us booze. So.
There's that. I mean, you know.
Listen, the key to being a good nerd, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my TED Talk. The key to being a big nerd and a good nerd is to be unapologetically yourself, to be a nerd who rocks hockey jerseys and plays Dungeons and Dragons and video games and still be able to walk into any group of people and fit in. That's the key. Choosing to walk into a group and fitting in and then being able to do so. Lonzo doesn't choose to fit into groups. If he did, he could.
No, I'm not sure I could. I'm going to take a moment because I'm going to eat. And I'm not eating in front of you. And Rob will be back in a minute. In theory.
Rashad did do a little mini mic drop there.
Here's an example. If a payroll salesperson contacts you, it's noise. I say this because Patriot Software is scaling quickly with our 5-star rated payroll, and we don't have salespeople because our payroll product sells itself. Our payroll is for businesses with up to 100 employees. We handle payroll taxes, offer free setup and support, and our prices are proudly displayed on our website. Go to patriotsoftware.com. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of payroll free. That's patriotsoftware.com. Patriotsoftware.com. Accounting and payroll. Keep your time and money.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-932-8603 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside
I think that for our vacation in the fall, I've got working on talking the lady friend, and I think I've got her hooked on the idea of a week-long tour de force around South Florida. That would include a 2-day stop in Orlando to do Star Wars Land finally, because I still haven't been there. The last time I went, it was not open yet.
I still haven't been to Florida. So, I mean,
Do what?
I still haven't been to Florida.
Fair. Yeah. So Star Wars Land, and they have the Millennium Falcon ride where somebody is the pilot. And I told her to be forewarned. that if I get a chance to pilot the Falcon and there's like a 4-year-old on my flight, that 4-year-old will be very disappointed because I have waited 30 years for this opportunity.
What's a 4-year-old know about the millennium?
Correct. I have been waiting for this chance since I was 4, kid. You put in your time, then you can fly the Falcon. But until then, I will be in control of those 11 parsecs. My mom just said, yeah, I know a 5-year-old who knows about it. That's fine. I will put my own nephew in the back seat to fly the Falcon.
I don't know, man.
No problem with it. Sorry, kid. We'll ride it again. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate, Rob Lonzo and you. Here, I'll go ahead and put it out there for public consumption. Let's see if Rob Brown's a terrible person. I feel like I already know what the poll is going to respond, but that's fine. I'm going to put it out there anyway because I am unbiased, even towards myself, as amazing as I am.
I don't believe your last statement on the stream, but we'll see.
So the lady friend and I take a week-long vacation, usually in the fall, right before football season gears up, right? Like, I don't like to take my full week vacation in football season. There's too much going on. So we take it like the last couple of weeks before football season starts. And we did the Dominican Republic last year. The year before that, we did Boston in New York City. We are going up in March for like a 3-day spin around New York. So we're like, all right, we've pretty much crossed New York City off. We're going back up in June. Her best friend's getting married in Connecticut. So we're going to do Connecticut, maybe take like a day trip up to Rhode Island because she wants to go to Rhode Island. Fine. But I think I've got her kind of started talking her into our week-long vacation this year being a little tour de force of South Florida, right? Flying to Tampa, do Tampa for a day, drive down to Orlando, do a couple of days in Orlando, drive down to Miami, do a couple of days in Miami, and then wrap it up down in Key West for a couple of days before we fly back. And the only reason I added Orlando on the list is because my gigantic nerd self really wants to hit the Star Wars land that Disney put up. And at Star Wars Land, there is a ride where you get to fly in the Millennium Falcon, right? A mock-up of the Millennium Falcon. There are 4 seats in this ride. There's a pilot, a gunner, an engineer, and somebody else. But everybody that rides the ride, the person that gets to fly the Falcon, the person in the gunner gets to run the targeting system, you know, all the gigantically dorky stuff that all of us have wanted to do since Star Wars dropped in the late 70s. And
I'm running the gunner, and I'm going to be cocky.
Have fun. You should. Great shot, kid. Don't get cocky. I'm flying, and I told her, like, if we do this, when we hit the Falcon, I'm flying it. And I need you to go ahead and be prepared for some awkwardness because I will not care if there's a small child on this ride. I have waited 34 years to pilot the Millennium Falcon. And if given the opportunity, I will absolutely ruin the day of a child to do so, right? I don't care. That's the no other ride. If we go on Space Mountain, I love riding in the front when you can't see nothing. But if there's like a 5-year-old kid riding Space Mountain and they want to ride in the front, it's like, fine, I'll ride in the back. I don't care that much.
Wait a minute. Is a 5-year-old kid old enough to, tall enough? I thought Space Mountain got closed down.
I don't know.
Okay.
No. Space Mountain did not. Splash Mountain got closed down.
Oh, okay. I know it was a mountain.
Yeah, Splash Mountain got closed down. But to fly the Falcon, no, I'm flying the Falcon. That kid can be the engineer or the gunner. I don't care. Co-pilot, whatever. I said at the end of the day, I've been watching Star Wars since I was a child. The Falcon is like the coolest spaceship of all the spaceships. I'm flying it. The Madre hit me with, effectively, would you kick your 5-year-old nephew, who, by the way, I have gotten hooked on Star Wars because I'm a great uncle. he knows and loves the Falcon. Would you let him pilot it? My answer was, yeah, if we ride it a second time, because the first time is mine. Luke can be my co-pilot, my gunner, my engineer, but I am flying the Falcon, and that's just going to be the end of it. To which Lonzo basically said, you would not push your nephew out of the way to fly the Millennium Falcon.
You know, I get other
Yes, I would.
I get other kids. We all know about your disdain for other children, but you absolutely love Lou, and I think Lou is at least you're sharing pilot duties.
Yeah, he can be the co-pilot.
No, I mean, like you put him on your lap and
it's a VR suite. You're seat belted in.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
It's a ride. It's an action adventure ride. You were strapped in. No, he can sit his little behind in the co-pilot.
If
chair.
there is movement involved in this ride, no 4 or 5 year old kid's going to be tall enough, so you're good.
I don't know.
So
I don't care.
So you're knocking out a 12-year-old kid from doing.
I don't care if you're 12 or 22 or 32 or 42. The first time I'm on the Falcon, I'm flying it, and I will wait extra time in line to be the pilot. It's not an option. Yes, I will disappoint your child.
I'd rather fly an X-wing.
That's not an option. So it is what it is. Texter said, Rob, I'm from Rhode Island. ... Stick to Florida. Now, the good news is because of the disdain for Rob Brown that many texters have, I don't know if that is a texter going, Rhode Island is boring, stick to Florida, or I'm from Rhode Island, keep your ass out of my state.
I think it's Rhode Island, dude. I think it's genuine. They're saying don't go to Rhode Island. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out why she wants to go to Rhode Island. Is there some historic thing?
Apparently it's got a very scenic coastline.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So like this is one of our primary relationship deficiencies, is that I want to go places where there are things to do, and she wants to go places there are things to see, right? Like her next big one is she wants to go to the Oregon
I think
coast.
that's kind of a male. It's a male female thing.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
She wants to go where there are things to see. I want to go where there are things to do. Like when we went to Boston, a year and a half ago, we went to Boston, and the minute we got to Boston, we dropped the bags in the hotel, and I went straight to the Freedom Trail, right? And the Freedom Trail is quite literally a line painted on the ground that you start in one end and walk to the other, and it walks you past all of the important sites in Revolutionary history in Boston. So it takes you by the old Granary Burial Ground where the founding fathers in Boston are buried. It brings you by Paul Revere's house. It brings you by the old State House where the Boston Tea Party started. It brings you by, what's the name of the building? The old building where the Declaration of Independence was read to the public for the first time. It brings you by Faneuil Hall in the middle of Boston, which is where people like Sam Adams gave their speeches.
By the way,
people to
Dark Chosen on the stream is trying to steal my thunder. I was going to say I would love to do that so I could say I killed a ghoul over here. I fought a synth right there.
Right, 'cause you can't turn your nerd off. I get that.
And here's where I contacted the Underground Railroad.
See, I'm a huge history dork as well. So I wanted to see all the history. We walked the minute we got to Boston. We started like a 6.5 mile trail of just history. And she's like, can we just go sit down and have a beer? And I'm like, yeah, once we see everything, once we do all the history, that's our big thing. So she wants to go to the Oregon coast.
Wow.
Next year.
Trey points out you can see how they make maple syrup. Who doesn't want to do that?
But that's right up her alley.
They stuck
She
a
would love
tap
that.
in the tree and they turn it on.
Yeah. I just
Look,
assume it's
syrup.
like beer, but out of a tree.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to the Oregon coast at some point, and her big thing is like she wants to walk the Golden Coast. Like it's rocky and it's been sunset. It's supposed to be the most beautiful sunset in America. And I'm like, cool, but we have to go see whales and I want to swim with them. She's like, she's like, we can't just go sit on the beach and like relax and have some wine and watch the sunset. I'm like, yes, and also do something. I got to do something. Does anybody else?
She could sit on the beach and watch you swim with the whales and go, good job, baby. You swim with them whales.
I'm gonna tell her that's what she said she sounds like. Texter says, I am from Connecticut. Connecticut sucks bleeps. Rhode Island sucks bleeps. If you like rude people, high taxes, and liberal politics, get the bleep over there. I'm from Connecticut. Connecticut sucks bleeps. Fantastic. We are going to Stamford, Connecticut, which is, of course, the home of WWE headquarters.
Yeah.
Correct. We are going to Stamford, Connecticut.
Are you going to go hang with Paul and Paul?
The only thing I hate about it in June, I would love to go see a UConn Huskies ladies basketball game. And I'm not going to, it's obviously outside of the season, so I'm not going to do that. Now, I'm hoping I can still take a tour of the arena.
So you want to go see that second tier of
UConn
women's
basketball.
basketball?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, second
correct.
tier.
As Kim Mulkey said, it's SC basketball, then everybody else.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go Gamecocks.
All right, let's do this. Let me take a quick break. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, yesterday, the Clemson basketball team had a big game as well. They took on the Syracuse Orange. Syracuse, a much better basketball team than the 3-win, now 4-win Louisville Cardinals team that beat Clemson earlier in the week. And Clemson beat the dog snot up out of the Cuse last night, right? That's a Syracuse team that is, I believe, 14-win team, not 3. Clemson was able to go up there and just knock them around. So my question is, and I'm going to put this as eloquently as possible, what the hell, man? And we'll address that question when we come back here in just a minute. I am Rob. He is Lonzo, and you're listening to The Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate.
That was a very scientific question.
It's in the spirit of Samuel Adams.
There we go.
I decided to be as oratorially exceptional as possible. I don't know if it's a word, honestly. The key is not to get the words right. The key is to be entertaining with the words.
Well, it's all in delivery. I get that. And someone wanted the Alexa off in the restroom so bad they unplugged it.
Really?
But I couldn't find the hole to plug it back in. And you know, as I told the person who was in the bathroom, you probably shouldn't say that in the bathroom.
Oratorically is indeed a word.
No, but you said oratorily.
I said oratorically. I started oratorily. I don't change it. We'll go back and listen. I said oratorically.
I don't recall there being a cuss sound in there.
There was definitely a cuss sound.
I don't think there was a cuss sound. Let's ask the internet, because They're always on your side.
Oratorial.
Did you hear a cuss sound when he said
There
that?
absolutely was a cuss sound. Which I will admit, I had no idea if it was actually a word when I used it, but it turns out it is. Of or relating to the art of public speaking.
There was no cuss sound.
There was.
I'm willing to stake some things on the fact that there was no cuss sound. See, Stephen, I was listening attentively, which I know is a word, and you know he would never lie. So. But.
Yes, I am going back to the video evidence.
Well, I would tell you this.
Just a minute, I am Rob. He is Lonzo. Oh, where is it? I just had it. There we go. I decided to be as oratorially exceptional. Oh, I didn't.
Thank you very much. I am.
Well done, Lonzo.
He who listens for a living
You got
over
me.
here, and yeah,
You got me. I'll own it. Clemson
we could have did that off the air and no one would have known. You know?
Yeah, but that's not fun. I thought I was right. It's always fun to point out that you're right on the air and accept your defeat off of it.
And then that happens.
Yeah, sometimes you just
We don't need to talk about Clemson basketball. We should talk about why you were wrong.
Clemson basketball last night went up against the Cuse, the Orange. The Syracuse Orange, a 16-12 team, a team that's up over 500 in ACC play. Now, this is not a great Syracuse team. They're good. I think they're okay. They're not good. They are significantly better than the Louisville Cardinals. The Louisville Cardinals, of course, the basketball team, with now 4 wins inside of the Atlantic Coast Conference. Why do they have 4 wins? Because they knocked off Clemson 83-73 up in New York a couple of days ago. And I have been telling you guys since the beginning of the season, well, every season, that bad losses hurt you more than good wins help you when it comes to college basketball. It takes like 3 good wins to erase a bad loss, like 3 good wins to erase a bad loss. And so this loss to Louisville, I said at the time, and I still believe, effectively creates a situation where the Clemson Tigers will have to, at the very least, make it to the finals of the ACC tournament if they want to get off the bubble and get in. The latest round of bracketology from Joe Lunardi on ESPN does not have the Clemson Tigers included. In fact, does not only not have the Tigers included, but they are not even enlisted on the next 4 in side of things. That's how bad that loss to Louisville was. But then Clemson turns around. They come back home to Little John. They take on the Syracuse Orange. And what do? They go blow Syracuse's doors off 73-91. Leading all scorers in that game was Hunter Tyson. Hunter Tyson ended with 29. Not a single starter for the Tigers finished with fewer than double-digit points. Shiflin had 10, Tyson 29, PJ Hall 16, Hunter had 13, Galloway had 15. The Tigers shot 52.3% from the floor. They shot 39% from deep on 14-36, and they went 9-15 from the stripe. It was an excellent all-around night for the Clemson basketball team, which leads to the only question I could come up with last night when I went back and watched the highlights of this game. What the hell, man? Because this team, for the first time in a hot minute, looked like a good basketball. I shouldn't say first time in a hot minute, because they went down to Tallahassee, Florida, and they knocked off the Noles by they went down to Tallahassee a few weeks ago. They beat the Noles by 1. Florida State came to Little John 3 games ago, and Clemson beat them by 40. 40. In an ACC basketball game, they won by 40. And I said, you know what? This after the 3 losses to Boston College, Miami, and North Carolina, Miami an acceptable loss. That's a team that is likely a lock for the tournament at this point. The L to Boston College is not good. The North Carolina game was a toss-up. That was a motivated Carolina team. Carolina team is on the bubble and got some work to do. They are playing for their tournament lives. That's an understandable, though not great loss. Then you turn around and beat FSU by 40. And I'm like, okay, this is the Clemson team we want. Really tough interior defense. PJ Hall and company do not make it easy to score around the rim. They're shooting up over 40%, closer to 50 in a couple of games. That's tournament caliber basketball. They lost to Louisville on the road by 10. Not like a buzzer beater close game. They got beat by Louisville. But they turned around. They went up against a Syracuse team that was significantly better. Again, not great, but significantly better than the Louisville Cardinals. And last night, Syracuse could get nothing going inside the paint. They were up against the stifling Clemson defense that was picking them at half court and giving them very little, if any, room to operate offensively. About 3 weeks ago, when Clemson was the top of the ACC, I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine who's a Clemson grad and a big basketball guy. And he was a dude that last year, at the end of the season, was interacting with the show very frequently and said, hey, Brownell's got to go. We played golf, and I said, hey, do you feel the same way? Like, do you feel like you owe Brad Brownell an apology? And he went, no. And I said, why? You're the number 1 team in the ACC right now. And he said, if we are still anywhere close to that position, when the regular season comes to its conclusion, I will buy you a bucket of beer. And I went, that seems a little outrageous. He said, if we're in the top 3 of the ACC at the end of the regular season, I will buy you a bucket of beer.
How much does a bucket cost?
12 to $15, a little bit more if you go to a nicer bar.
So that's not bad.
No, not at all. It's a nice little bet, especially when on the other side of it, I don't have to put anything up, right? It's a one-sided bet. I can't lose. You want to guess where Clemson currently stands in the ACC rankings? 4th. He said, here's the problem.
You need to do that with conviction. There we go.
He said, here's the problem. The problem is this is pretty standard operating procedure. He said when it gets to crunch time, when games get clutch, when tournament brackets are being discussed, when getting the 2-round bye in the ACC tournament is being discussed, Brad Brown and his teams lose focus. They lose focus, they lose consistency, and they drop 3 to 4 games that they have no business losing. He said that. Clemson went on to drop 3 in a row. They went on to lose to Louisville. They are now currently sitting at 4th in the ACC. A game and a half off the pace set by number 3, Pittsburgh. That was what he said the problem was, and it turns out he was spot on correct. At some point, you're going to have to stop being accepting of mediocrity and inconsistency. It's got to change. This Clemson team's good enough to be in the tournament. It's good enough to win a couple of tournament games. They showed you that with the 40-point win over FSU and the win over the Cuse last night. But my goodness, do you guys need to come out in your next game against an NC State team that's working their way in and get work done on Saturday? We'll talk about that more when we get closer to the end of the week on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
You need to change the scroll at the bottom.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Thank you.
The person in the restroom was making fun of the fact that I couldn't get information out of them for today's thing, which means either we were talking too loud in the hallway or we've got another mole.
A mole?
You know what we do to moles, right? Things do echo down the hallway.
Oh, I'm aware.
Yes.
Especially for me. I probably don't even need the echo. You could just hear me say it.
Yeah, there's that, you know. Our walls are really thin too. Sometimes you can take advantage of that when you hear someone walk into the bathroom door, but you don't hear the bathroom door close. So you know they're standing in the doorway listening. Not that I notice anything like that or something. You know, because most people in radio are deaf.
I am. Chris, that's also 15 years of being in a rock and roll band. Rock and roll. Oh, you'll appreciate this. So I told you that when we do the second period intermission at hockey games, I walk out onto the ice to do it.
You gonna tell me about Patrick?
Did you see
he texted me before. He's like, they just played whatever theme, I forget what it was.
Romans.
Yeah, I said, Rob asked them to do that, and then I guess you had Ricky Starks played too.
On Mardi Gras Day, I had Ricky Starks play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I started this, the girl who is the production op for the Swamp Rabbits, her name's Terry. She's from Louisiana. She's a doll. Nikon, who is the DJ, when I started this thing this year, and he's like, do you want walkout music? And I'm like, does Rob Brown want walkout music? I don't want anything but walkout music.
Come on, dude.
And I built an entire list of just wrestling walkout songs. And basically before it's my time, I'll call up and I'll be like, play this one, like find this guy's theme, right? So because of Elimination Chamber on last Friday's game, I played Sammy's music, and then I played Ricky Starks on Sunday for Mardi Gras from New Orleans, and then I played Romans last night. And she the whole time has been like, are there really that many wrestling fans? Played Romans music last night. There were probably 2,200 people in the well. As I walked out onto the ice and looked around, there were probably 60 people standing with ones up. I didn't say anything about it. She calls down and she's like, why are there so many people standing up pointing at the roof? Why are there so many people doing this? And one of the other guys,
you should have said, because the roof is on fire.
One of the guys in the box, James, is also a wrestling guy. He just says, because they're acknowledging Rob. And she's like, what are y'all talking about right now? I didn't know it was Patrick until after because I couldn't see him from the ice. I could see him, but I couldn't pick out it was him. And he tweeted me after the game. And he's like, I acknowledge him. I was like, yes. I'm glad other people got it.
Well, he texted me before he put the tweet out. So I didn't realize when he did it that he actually took a picture. So
Hilarious.
okay, you go for some Vicks Vapor Rub right now. I know we're going to go into that meeting and I'm just going to have a coughing fit to the degree that I'm going to have to leave. And it's already been told that I'm going to be embarrassed when we walked in, and I'm sure he will do it if the situation arises.
Embarrassed by what?
That's how I try to get out of going in the meeting because I don't want to be embarrassed interrupting a meeting. So do I curtsy or do I bow? I don't know.
I might walk in with walking music playing on my phone. Unless I walk in and see the faces.
Well, if one person's talking, either one of us doing anything.
The final, the best of money hour. The Rob Brown Show goes now. This is the Fan Upstate. Rob, Lonzo, and you. Jump on board 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. Text us On the text line, it's 71307-71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, and we will read them for you on the air. You can also tweet us at The Rob Brown Show, at The Rob Brown Show, at Lonzo on Word, or tweet everybody at the station at The Fan Upstate. Here's a question for y'all. We are having, at the conclusion of our show, a staff meeting today. Everybody up in here.
All right. To be more accurate, the meeting's going to be going on while we're still on the air.
It is starting in a few minutes, 11:30, and then we'll be joining at 12:01 when we get off the air. And
we'll be the only, because we're the only ones on
the air.
Yeah.
So we'll be the last ones coming in. And my question is, it's an all hands on deck meeting. We do not know what it is about. But I kind of want to play my walk-in music. Like, I want to get my Bluetooth speaker out of the car, clip it on the belt, and walk into the staff meeting playing walk-in music like a professional wrestler. Is that a terrible idea? Or is that hilarious?
All right. As far as I'm concerned, it won't be frowned upon. It will be expected because it's radio. We're wild. We're zany. We're crazy. That's what we do.
I think I'm going for it.
But if Mr. McMahon's up there talking, probably not a good idea.
Rob Brown, you're fired. Let's get some sports in here because it's Thursday. And you know what that means? Coming up here in a little less than 18 minutes, it is time for Fight Club with the great one, where we're getting into everything combat sports.
We're just going to talk about what my walk-up music should be into the meeting. That's just the entire segment. That's all we're doing. So get ready.
Cowboys from Hell by Pantera.
I'm not, no, because then Diesel will jump up and do the sign of the devil, and I'm not going to be a part of that.
Rock and roll. All right.
And so will Twisted Todd, and so will anybody who works at the Planet.
I'm for it. Let me ask you guys this question. I had a moment of concern about myself this morning. During the NBA's All-Star break, which is over, 9 games on the docket this evening, one of the topics of conversation that kept coming up was the concept of load management in the National Basketball Association, a very fancy way of saying players sit out games for rest. Now, you know, we talked with Rashad Beard back to start the last hour. If you missed that segment and you're a Panthers fan, you're going to want to go listen to that by going to thefanupstate.com, clicking the podcast, dropping it down to the Rob Brown Show, and listening to the 10 o'clock hour. You can get all 3 hours available and commercial free for you right there on the website. And Rashad said, look, if I'm running a team, I got one goal, and the one goal is to win the Super Bowl. Not make the Super Bowl, not make the playoffs, not win the division. My only goal is to win the Super Bowl. And I don't know if this is viewed this way or not. Like, as a fan, I just want to enjoy my team playing, right? It's much easier to enjoy when they are a contender for a title in whatever sport you're talking about. But I just want to break from reality for a few hours a week to watch my team play. But if I am a general manager, if I am a head coach, if I am an owner, if I am a player, the only goal that I have is to win a championship, right? At least that's my mentality. I'm sure there are a lot of players who don't feel that way. A lot of players' only goal is to get rich, which, fine, yeah, if I'm capable of it, I want that too. But the only goal is to win a title. If I'm a head coach, my only goal is to win a title. If I'm a GM, my only goal is to win a title. If I'm an owner, my only goal is to win titles. I want to hang banners, and I want to fill up a trophy case or 6. It takes a lot of strategery to win a title. It takes a lot of tactics, formations. That is why when we talk about Andy Reid, we don't just talk about the fact that Andy Reid is a very likable guy. We talk about the fact that Andy Reid is an exceptional head coach and offensive architect, right? We talk about, when we talk about the great coaches all time in basketball and football, we talk about coaches who are able to look at the roster, look at the players, look at the guys around them, and draw up the formations, the X's and O's that are going to get the most out of them while covering their weaknesses. It's all tactics. It's all strategy. It's all a plan. I love it when a plan comes together. It's all tactics. It's all decision-making. Now, there are 82 games in a National Basketball Association season. It's a lot of basketball, and it's a very physical game to play, right? I understand the people who think there are too many baseball games, but at the same time, let's be honest with each other. Baseball is not that physical of a sport. It's just not. You may have some moments of physicality within the baseball game, but it's not a physical sport. 160-plus games is not going to take the wear and tear on your body that an 82-game NBA schedule does, but 82 games is a heck of a lot of games in a sport where very frequently you are asked to slam your body into that of another human being, and all of you are the best athletes in the world at the game that you are playing. And especially in the current climate, where basketball teams are more and more frequently being thrown into back-to-back game scenarios, right? You're going on the road out to Denver, Colorado, to take on Mr. Triple-Double Nikola Jokic, who is built like a boat outhouse. No, wait. Built like a brick boathouse. That's how that phrase goes. Built like a brick boathouse. That's it. He's a big dude. He's sturdy. Not like me and Lonzo were sturdy, but sturdy. And imagine that you got to go out to Denver and you got to throw your body into Nikola Jokic for 4 quarters, and Nikola Jokic is going to throw his body at you for 4 quarters. You are going to be banged up. I don't care how superhuman of an athlete you are, you're going to be banged up, right? So you've gotten to a point in the NBA where load management happens. Load management is a situation where a player goes, okay, I've gone back-to-back against Nikola Jokic. The Houston Rockets are coming to town this weekend. They're not very good. I'm going to take the night off. I'm not going to play. I'm going to rest up. I'm going to let my body heal a little bit before we got to go back out to Phoenix and play KD or LA and play LeBron or whatever. There's 2 schools of thoughts on this. School of thought number 1 is that's bad for the league. Load management is a bad system. It's a bad philosophy. It's bad because the games are less than what the games could be. And the argument that I hear most frequently is it's bad for fans. Because if I go down in New Orleans, well, that's a bad example because Zion never plays anyway. If I go to Los Angeles, because I've never seen LeBron James play in person, which is untrue. I have seen him play in person. He was a Cleveland Cavalier at the time, playing Chris Paul and his New Orleans Pelicans. Sorry, Hornets at the time. But if you've never seen LeBron play, and I fly to LA to go watch LeBron play, and I show up to the game, and it's time for your starting lineups, and LeBron James isn't playing that night as a fan, you're going to be mighty disappointed, right? I came to this game to see Bron play. If I go up to Charlotte when the Suns come to town because I want to see Kevin Durant in person, a player I have not gotten to see play up close and personal, and Kevin Durant, because the Hornets aren't good, takes the night off for load management, and I drove up 2 hours to Charlotte to watch KD play, and KD's not playing because he's taking it easy for the night, you're right. I'm going to be very disappointed in that. But does that outweigh the strategy involved in keeping your best players rested and healed up and ready to go for your most important games, the games where not only you need a win to improve your playoff odds and seeding, but maybe a game where you need to up your odds and seeding, and a win would take away from a team that you're in competition with for a playoff spot. Load management is not because players are lazy. Load management is not because players are just sissies who need a night off. Load management is a viable strategy to keep your best players in shape, healthy, and rested for the most important games, and to get them to the end of the season healthy. Because I don't know about you, but I have had a situation where we've gotten to the playoffs. My team made the NBA playoffs, and it's time for round 1, game 1, and my best player is unavailable because he's beat up and can't go. And now all of a sudden, I'm starting the playoff series, the only reason you play in the NBA, in a hole.
Well, if load management is such a problem and you're worried about those 10 or 15 games, just shorten the season. I know you're not going to do that because of money, but shorten the season. You shorten the season, then you don't have that excuse anymore.
So Adam Silver.
If they shorten the season, they'd still be doing load management, though.
Probably. Because, again, whether you play 82 or 62
all
or
right.
102.
All right, don't play in the summer. I don't want to see you playing in the summer. If you are a guy who sits out at least 10 games during the regular season, I don't want to see you on the court in the summer.
You're not going to get that concession. The reason these guys play in the summer is because basketball is a game of physical idiosyncrasies. I'm using all my big words today.
You build up calluses, just like in football or anything else. You build up tolerances, you keep your cardio going, all that kind of stuff. I get why they play in the summer, but don't complain about being tired when you're playing all year round.
So what you end up with in basketball, being a game of physical idiosyncrasies, is this game of muscle memory, right? Your free throw is at a high percentage because your muscle memory is so good that when you release the basketball, your middle finger spins off at just the right way at just the right time and puts just the right rotation on the ball, et cetera. And if you don't play basketball for 4 or 5 months, you can lose that muscle memory. And some guys lose that muscle memory and they never get it back. You can't. It's the yips. You just can't get it back. So they're going to play summer ball so that when the NBA season starts around, because, again, you want to come hot out the gate, right? You want to have a good run right out of the gate to set the tone for the season. If you lose that idiosyncrasy and now all of a sudden Nikola Jokic goes from being a triple-double machine to a guy who's putting up 8, 7, and 5 instead of 17, 13, and 10 in a game, the Denver Nuggets aren't the same team. So load management, while still having off-season ball.
How often does Jokic do that, though?
Triple-doubles?
No. Take time off for load management.
Not as much as some other guys, but I will also say that a lot of the guys who get bagged up for
You know why? Because they don't do that in European ball. You play all the time. You don't take time off.
Oh, Nikolai sat out a couple of games for load management. Not as many as, say, LeBron.
I just think there's lots of SAWFT.
See, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. The fact that a guy...
I won't be in tomorrow, Rob, because, we play hard all the time, and the rigors of the first half of this season, we're already into almost nearly March. I need a little time, to rest up.
For the record.
So tomorrow, come on, it's a slow sports day, so I don't need to be here.
For the record, to fly in the face of your sarcasticness.
By the way, it definitely is not a word.
Oh, I know. If I came into work and the big boss was like, yo, Lonzo's out today, he's taking a mental health day, you have my full support. My entire and full support. I have zero problem with somebody going, I'm not at my best.
All right, see,
and continuing to grind when I'm not at my best makes me worse overall. I'm going to take a break to get healthy, whether it's physically or mentally.
I was going to say, I haven't been at my best all week. So maybe that's
how many times this week have I told you, bro, if you need to take a day to rest up, freaking do it. There's no shame in that.
It's not going to fix the problem. And I can do my job effectively at 50%. I'm better than almost everybody in the entire world because, I'm an award-winning producer. I can do this job with my eyes closed. So can NBA players.
Okay.
They don't have to go hard at the entire game. You've seen them dog it before. Get out there and dog it a little bit. Don't take the days off when the fans are the reason why you get paid the salaries. And by the way, get all the money you can. It has nothing to do with that. But the fans help pay for that. I think you owe the fans to play when you can play.
The number one objective is to win a championship, right? I'll tell you this. If I go see the Hornets play 6 times and I never see Miles Bridges play a game, but the Hornets are a playoff team in contention for a championship, I'm okay with it. Because at the end of the day, that's the goal. The point that I'm making here is the old school mentality of if you don't play your SAWFT soft flies in the face of evidence, of proof that taking a day off every now and then to heal up, because you just said, I can do my job better than everybody else in this building at 50%. And I agree with that entirely, right? Respectfully to everybody. That's why you've been here. But Lonzo's 50% is not Lonzo's 100%.
Very true.
Okay.
You're absolutely right.
So if you can take a day or two, right? And I'm not talking about sit out for 6 weeks. I'm saying if you can take a day or two.
Yeah, in my case, that would be the entire allergy season, which would probably be about 6 weeks.
If Lonzo is cranking out performances at 50%, which is still great, still the best producer in the game at 50%. If Lonzo is cranking out 50%, he's still the best in the game, but I can do a show without my star player, Lonzo, right? I am the Anthony Davis to his LeBron. If I can do a show without Lonzo, and by the way, still have a pretty damn good show without my star player, but I know that if Lonzo sits for a day or two and rests up, and when he comes back 2 or 3 days later, he's going to be 100%, or at least as close as he's capable of being to 100%, I will take that, because Lonzo at 100%, by definition, is going to perform better in our role of trying to wear that red sequin jacket coming up in September to pick up more hardware than Lonzo gutting it out at 50%. LeBron gutting it out at 50% is not going to give me 39 a night. LeBron at 100% will. So if I can sit LeBron for 2 or 3 nights and then get a run of 6 or 7 games where he gets me 39, as opposed to LeBron grinding it out and getting me 13 for the same length of time, but he played in those 2 games, then I want that. That's what I want. That's what's best for the team.
LeBron needs to play now because they're probably not going to make the playoffs. So any chance that you get to see him would be right now.
Yeah, they got to go like 14-9 at their absolute worst. They have to win, rough estimate. But if everybody else stays on the pace that they were on going into the All-Star break in terms of percentage wins and losses, Los Angeles has to win 14 of their final 23, and they've got like the 7th or 8th most difficult schedule left in the NBA. It's not going to be easy. And like 3 of the teams ahead of them, I think Dallas, New Orleans, and I don't remember, Memphis. No, not Memphis. One of the other ones have like the 3rd, 6th, and 7th most difficult schedules remaining. It's going to be some work for LA. The point is, if I'm the Lakers and I got a game coming up against Houston, who's a, 15-win ball club, 16-win ball club? Let's see, when's their next not great game? The Thunder? If I got a game against...
Well, let's face it. People are looking at LA like that's their next not great game. So, I mean, you know.
Let's see if I can come up with a good example. Let's look at the Lakers schedule, right? If I'm looking down the schedule and they've got coming up ahead of them in the last 23 games, they got Golden State tonight. I'll take LeBron back. But when they go up in, Wednesday, March 15th. So they got a 3-game stretch, the 10th, 12th, and 14th. They're at home against Toronto, the Knicks, and New Orleans on the road on March 14th. That's a tough little 3-game stretch. Then they got Wednesday, March 15th. They're on the road at Houston. The Rockets suck. They're awful. If I'm the Lakers, I'm sitting LeBron that night. Sit him, right? Are there going to be some NBA fans in Houston who are wildly disappointed because they showed up to watch the Rockets play the Lakers to see LeBron James play in person? Yes, and I do not care because after that Houston game, they got Dallas. They have to win that game. Have to win that basketball game. I'd rather have LeBron on a rest than LeBron grinding out that Houston game for no reason, right? Load management isn't bad as long as you accept that the ultimate goal of a basketball team is to win a title. Yes, we want the NBA to entertain fans. We all watch to be entertained, but we all watch to be entertained by our teams being as good as they can be. Load management's not bad. The NBA is making a mountain out of a molehill here. Adam Silver's making a mountain out of a molehill. The fans are making a mountain out of a molehill. Load management helps your team be in a better position to win a title. And at the end of the day, whether I'm a player, a coach, a GM, an owner, my only objective is to hang a banner and bring home hardware. And if LeBron's sitting out 16 or 18 or 20 of 82 games helps me do that, I don't really care if you're disappointed because my paycheck is connected to a hardware, not to you. Let's take a break. We'll come back. It's Thursday. You know what that means. Fight Club with Lonzo. Your home for all things combat sports is next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Fan Upstate.
Yeah, on the Fan Upstate, we do our best. So, Roger, in our case, it's not a matter of load management. It is harder to get fill-in hosts in sports radio than it is, like, let's say, talk radio. And also, all of our go-to guys are backups somewhere else. So when it's a company holiday, it's, across the country. So those guys usually are busy. And really, it comes down to just Rob Brown don't work holidays. So, I mean, just want to see if he was paying attention. Bless you.
Thanks.
Just a few of the many. But what about the Upstate's favorites of tomorrow? Do we know who they are yet? Might PJ Hall enter that conversation? This chat will be going on Offsides. We hope to have you there Monday through Friday, 3 to 7 p.m. on the Fan Upstates. I'm Mark Ryan.
Offsides with Mark Ryan this afternoon, 3 to 7 on the Fan Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville, 87.1 FM Spartanburg, and on the Odyssey app. When you're an innovative business, every blinking cursor, every blank page is an opportunity. What will you do? Will you make something better or create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with tools and expertise to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us. For advice on smart PCs powered by Intel V Pro that's built for business, call the Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. Every piece of land has a story. Some right there is behind the wheel of the
That was part of the show where I have to try to talk in multiple sentences without coughing, and I'm not quite sure I can do it.
It's been years in the making, and now the most epic comic and game story is finally here. Borderlands Comics and Games. Reimagined, bigger and better than before. The state's premier hobby shop has been bringing the best in comics, manga, and gaming to the region for 3 decades. Come see us at our new enormous location at 410 South Pleasantburg. Live the Borderlands experience for yourself. We have gone to a whole new level. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. Proud sponsors of the Upstate Pulse. Borderlands Comics and Games. Read, build, play.
Experience the future of connectivity with Spectrum One. You get Spectrum Internet delivering the fastest speeds in the nation for $49.99 a month. Advanced Wi-Fi for enhanced privacy and security, free for 12 months. And a Spectrum mobile line with unlimited talk, text, and data, plus nationwide 5G, free for 12 months. That's Spectrum One. Visit Spectrum.com or your local Spectrum store today. Offer subject to change. Valid for qualified residential customers only. Service not available in all areas.
Running a small business is no small task. At Home Trust Bank, we work hard to prepare businesses for whatever tomorrow may bring. Your dreams are our business, and we have local experts who can help you plan for a successful future. Dependable things you need and service you'll appreciate. At Home Trust Bank, we take your small business banking personally. Visit your local Home Trust branch or anytime at htb.com. Member FDIC.
Sponsored by Corley Plumbing, Air and Electric.
At Corley Plumbing, Air and Electric, we get the job done right the first time. Call Corley Plumbing, Air and Electric today or skip the line and book online. CorleyPro.com. That's CorleyPro.com.
Now, CBS Sports Radio.
Upstate. Here's how to get in the game on
Philadelphia radio at 97.7 FM, 1330 AM, Greenville, 97.1 FM, 950 AM, Spartanburg.
Listen on your phone, download the Odyssey app, and search the Fan Upstate.
So Wednesday, April 5th at the Peace Center. The greatest Bruce of all time, Bruce Campbell, is coming.
No, because we paid extra money to get signed stuff one time when he was here, and then they ended up giving it to everybody. And it just, we got gypped over it, and it ticks me off. Welcome into the Fight Club, where we don't like getting gypped. We don't. We like to smack the people who gyp us. Can't always do that because that's not the civil way of handling things. Sometimes you get gypped and you just can't do anything about it. I am going to apologize and tell you that I'm going to do my best to make it through this entire segment without coughing, but it ain't happening. All right, so the first thing to get to is Elimination Chamber. We didn't talk about it a whole lot. Before we get to the Sammy thing, because that will take a bit. Asuka winning the Chamber. When we talked about the Chamber coming up, she was the only logical winner in the whole thing. When you look at the card and go, okay, she's the only one who can win.
Yeah, I think it had to be Asuka. I think it had to be Asuka. I think new Asuka v. Bianca has the potential to be an absolute banger of a match. And I will say that I think there were a couple. By the way, Carmella is setting herself up as 2023 wrestler, greatest comeback wrestler of the year. She's been really good since she came back.
Going back to her old character is a good move.
100%.
Because I liked her more as the Staten Island Princess.
100%. It's a great move. But anyway, that being said, new Asuka, it was a great move. I gotta think she beats Bianca at WrestleMania.
And by the way,
but I don't think there's been a real wrestler that's been more over in the female division than Bianca since Becky's original run as the man.
The pay-per-view top to bottom was really good. It absolutely was. And the Chamber was,
with the exception of Brock and Bobby Lashley, which
they're setting some things up for later, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I love both Chamber matches for sure.
Both chamber matches were the highlight of the night,
which they should be because they're the focal point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the pay-per-view is named after. And yeah, I really enjoyed both of them. I didn't get to see the first one the night before because Peacock sucks, and I'm not going to take a chance of not seeing Sammy and Roman until the next day. So, and you can rewind back, but when it's over, you can't watch it for a couple hours. So wasn't going to wait for that. But I watched that the next day and it was really good. I'd already been spoiled about who the winner was, but again, I didn't see there being any other winner. So I think we did pretty well on our picks without having them. Pretty much picked the winners across the board, I think. Austin Theory winning the men's Chamber match, also really good. And the things they can do with the big guy if they don't get rid of him again.
Yeah.
The potential is so much there. Just how fluid his tsunami is and all those things. Man, I hope they don't get rid of him again. And there's a reason why that kind of stuff could happen, and we'll talk about that in a second. But let's go ahead and get to before that, Logan Paul showed up. Logan Paul showed up to work on the feud that has already been, that Seth Rollins had started. So it was a surprise, but it wasn't a surprise. Still got the best buckshot in all of wrestling. I don't care what anyone says, including Rob. The Millennial Cowboy needs to stop doing it because Logan Paul owns that move. Have you ever seen someone do someone else's move better to the point where that person had to change their move?
Not that they've had to change it that I can recall off the top of my head. I will say this. I still despise the Paul brothers as people, but I cannot not acknowledge that he's a damn fine wrestler. The only problem I had with that was not even the run-in. I thought him sneaking in the run-in when the cage was open was great. Was very clearly seeing Seth looking at him and then just running towards him for no reason and into the most scripted move in sports entertainment.
Well, it was deer in headlights. Seth didn't expect him to be there, so he was so shocked that he couldn't move. That's absolutely what happened.
Yeah, let's go with that.
All right, so I don't recall a crowd being so on fire for one wrestler since I've been watching. I mean, I can only imagine how loud it was in Montreal for Sami Zayn, because that crowd was crazy for Sami, and it stinks. Because they're crazy for him and he lost. And there's still had to be a little part of there's a little part of me that believed, could they pull the trigger and let Sami win this? They could, but they didn't. And I don't, was it a good move? Was it not a good move? I do believe that Rob Brown describes this extensively emotionally right after it happened. And you can check that out on the app. Go to odyssey.com, download the app, and you can find it. Go to 97.1 Fan. And there is Rob's reaction right after it happened.
It's been a long time since a wrestling show made me go, I got to open the mic right now, but I had to open the mic. In fact, you can even tell it was right after the show because I was doing it like this. And that's because the girlfriend was asleep. And if I woke her up in the middle of the night screaming about wrestling, I would have been sleeping on the couch. So here's my stance on it. And I've wavered a little bit, but I think I've solidified my position. They've set up the story for Cody Rhodes, right? And you go, all right, what about the Bloodline versus Sami Zayn? Well, the position I've taken on this is the story revolves around Sami Zayn, but the story was never about Sami Zayn. The story's always been about Jey Uso. It's been about Jey versus his family, right? It's been about the fact that when Roman came back and was being a jerk out of the gate, Jey did everything he could to stand up, but Roman resorted to some pretty standard textbook abusive, toxic behaviors in order to force Jey in line, including using his own brother against him, both threatening to murder him in the ring and also getting him on board to force Jey to feel kind of peer pressured into doing it as well. The story here is Jey breaking out of that cycle. Jey seeing the turn in the last pay-per-view where Sami put the screws to Roman with the chair. Yeah, that was a moment we all popped for Sami Zayn, but the story was Jey walking out of the ring, right? It was Jey not being willing to jump in on the beatdown. By the way, can we give some props Monday Night Raw to Kevin Owens promo looking at Sami and going, doesn't change the fact that you stood there and watched me get the hell beat out of me. I'm not your friend, right? I thought that was great.
Yeah, we were going to get to that later, but we can talk about it. Okay.
We still can. It's your segment. We still can. The segments, the story's always been about Jey and whether or not he's got the stones to do what Sami did and stand up knowing that it was going to cost him, if nothing else, a physical beatdown to do it. And I thought they told that story well, but the problem is now you're trying to tell two stories at the same time. The second story being that Cody Rhodes is a wrestler of destiny. Cody Rhodes has come back to
come on, you can interrupt and give him some love.
Thank you, Captain America Chris Evans, doing his superhero duty by bringing us what appears to be a delightful pimento cheese sandwich, of which I'm a huge fan. And by the way, these chips are fantastic. Thank you very much. You're a legend. The way that they told
he just wanted to be on camera.
That's fine. He's welcome.
Being generous on camera.
He's welcome.
No, that was really cool because
he's an influencer.
As we suspected,
there will be no food when we get down.
There wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But I brought food as contingency anyway. But still, yeah. The thing is with you're right. This story is about Jey Uso, and it has been for a long time, and it has been from the beginning. If you go all the way back to where Roman was treating Jey a certain way at the beginning before they were called, the Bloodline.
Yep.
And like a lot of storylines, you wonder how this thing's going to finish up. Will it finish up with Jey being the end of the Bloodline, or will he take over? Because there are rumors out there that Roman is done for a while after WrestleMania.
And I wouldn't be shocked, but this is the point I think I made that was a little more controversial. In wrapping the Bloodline story up in and around the Cody Rhodes story going on at the same time, it feels to me like, and maybe this is just because I want both brands to succeed, but it feels to me like it is just as important for WWE to be able to hand the belt to Cody and go, see, we took those other guys' guy And now he's the most important guy for us. That's how powerful we are. And maybe that's just me being pedantic.
Yeah, because I don't take it that way. I take it as a guy who knew he was a star, and WWE didn't recognize him as that. He went and helped to build actual competition.
Is he a
then
star?
he comes back. Absolutely, he's a star.
He's over, but is he a star? Is Cody Rhodes a guy that we're going to get a run anything close to Roman? No, we're not.
Yeah, but
like
that's kind of a bad argument because no one's going to get a run like Roman in modern history. He is the longest 800 days or something like that.
Days.
Yeah,
if he gets it all the way through WrestleMania, it'll be over 1,000.
Yeah, so
I get why.
So no one's going to do
Sammy
that.
couldn't win, by the way.
Yeah, no one's going to do that.
Reign was important, and I agree with you. Cody's a great wrestler, and he's the two promos he's cut since right before EC and right after were both very, very good. His work with Paul Heyman is exceptional right now, and I'm good with all of it. But it just feels to me like they are intentionally taking the focus off of the best story they've told since WrestleMania 30 with Daniel Bryan v. The Authority in order to shine a spotlight on, we got AEW's guy and now he's our guy. Ha ha ha, suck it.
See, I just don't take it that way. And I get
that's fair.
I get why you're defensive of AEW, and that's fine. I don't think it has anything to do with other than what I said. Here's a guy who said he was a star. They didn't recognize him as one. He left, made himself a star somewhere else, built competition. He decides to come back. And I think Cody's story is just as strong as the Bloodline. The thing is, the Bloodline story's been going on a little bit longer. And if Cody wasn't hurt, would Roman still have the belt?
Yeah, I think the ability to get Roman over is the monster heel that he has become when they finally listen and went, oh, maybe we shouldn't shove him through as a babyface. Maybe we should listen to what the people are saying, but that's another story for another time. They created at the beginning of this whole thing an incredibly compelling story around the biggest chicken boat heel that they have had in a very long time. And I don't think this could have gone any other way, because if you had done that, then the story that is, again, the best story since WrestleMania 30 with the Bloodline. Does anybody care about the Bloodline story if Roman's not strapped?
But
no.
Here's the thing. If Sammy never enters the Bloodline situation, I think it would have gotten stale. He brought something to that, and I think he helped extend it. So without him, I don't think it gets extended.
I don't know, because I think the story between Roman and Jay keeps going. I think it probably would have ended by this point, right? Like, or would have been hitting its head right now. But the other part is, I think you got to keep this in mind. I don't scratch that. Subjectively speaking, I don't think Sami Zayn was brought in with the intention of this becoming what it became. I think Sami Zayn is just so damn good at that role that he made it this. I think Sammy was brought in.
The moment when he said Usi.
Yeah.
That changed the entire thing.
Sammy was brought in as a comedy angle, as a comedy outlet for a very, very serious story. You got to keep in mind, again, with the Roman and Jay story, the story was about abuse. The story was about toxic behavior within a family. This is a story that's relatable to a lot of people. Sammy was brought in effectively to be comic relief when there was just too much pressure because of a very, very, very serious story that hits close to home to a lot of people. But when he started taking off in these promos and he was repeatedly breaking the Usos and making them laugh and making Roman laugh, it was like, holy crap, the crowd has connected with this guy. And he became the foil for the Jey Uso story. And it's worked wonders. To the problem, it got problematic because unless you really sit down and analyze the story, it's absolutely fine to think this is a Sami Zayn versus the Bloodline story. It's not. It never has been. But because he was so damn good in that role, it kind of morphed into that, which is why all of us thought there. I agree. I would not have bet $1 that Sami Zayn was leaving he was plus 900 in Vegas going into that match. I would not have bet $1 on Sami Zayn winning that match. But you and I had better believe, Zoe, when that match started, and especially on false finish number 7, when Sami was getting I was on the seat of the chair in the man cave. Like, they're going to do it. They're going to let him have it. They're going to swerve me. They're going to do this. And then they didn't. And once again, when wrestling can get cynical people like me to completely and entirely, not just suspend their disbelief for the actors telling the story on the stage, but they can suspend the belief of the real business side of wrestling for a few minutes, that's when it's at its best. Entirely.
Oh, I absolutely agree. All right. Speaking of suspended belief, there's a rumor going around
that something's going down.
Yeah. Well, after an announcement of Almost versus Brock Lesnar, people suspect that Vince McMahon is back in creative.
Saw that.
Do you believe that Vince McMahon is back in
You
creative?
gotta keep in mind the source of this too. Shamrock Sapp of Fightful, who by the way has quoted us multiple times in major stories.
As well he should, because we break news here.
Correct. Shamrock Sapp put out a tweet that said that a WWE talent contacted him and said that Vince is back in creative. And he ran with that, unsubstantiated, and he admitted, I have not been able to confirm this, but this is what a talent told me directly. And it took off. Well, since then, a couple of other dirt sheets have come out and said there was absolutely nobody in WWE willing to even come close to confirming this. But Almost versus Lesnar does not feel like a Triple H idea at all. It feels forced. It feels contrived. It feels needless.
Here's what it is. It's the reforming of the Hurt Business. That's all it is. And I think people are reading way too much into this. They're going to put the Hurt Business back together and maybe give it the run it deserved, because it deserved a better run. The Hurt Business was on its way to being a really good heel faction, and then it just got broken all to pieces way too early. That's all I think it is. This is just leading in to the rebuilding of the Hurt Business.
That's fair. And I mean, listen, we've seen
and think of the Hurt Business with Almost as your muscle, not Bobby Lashley.
See, but I was thinking, I'd rather have the OG. I'd rather have the OG trio.
Yeah, but you've got to do something with Almost. He fits better inside of a faction than he does on his own. He is he's an oddity. He's I mean, that's a big dude.
Out.
We've seen him live in person.
Right. Hear me out. Maybe we just recognize he's not that good of a wrestler and you don't have to do anything. Maybe we just recognize that he's fine as a foil, that he's fine as a last main boss for mid-card titles and not much else. Give me Lashley. Give me the OG Hurt Business managed by MVP. Give me those three guys running roughshod. Brock Lesnar being taken down by a newly reformed Hurt Business would be spectacular. I don't need Almost involved in there. Give me a rubber stamp match between Brock and Bobby that finishes with a dirty finish because they interfere and win it for Lashley. So he goes over in the feud. It keeps Brock from looking weak. And now you got one of the best heel factions we've had in a long time. And oh, by the way, tell me right now, Bloodline v MVP and the Hurt Business wouldn't be an incredible series.
Absolutely would be a really good series, but I think you need Almost in there. And there's also a rumor that maybe Carmelo Hayes moves up and also becomes a part of the Hurt Business. And
Carmelo would fit great.
Yeah, I think he would.
I don't need Almost. He's just an average wrestler. I don't need him.
Got to throw Trick in there too. All right, one last thing before we go to break. Have you seen the Ariel Helwani beef with Tony Khan?
I did see that.
Have you? I watched an entire half hour of Ariel's podcast, and he was going at Tony Khan hard. And my question for you, Rob, because we do need to take a break. Is this a work? Or is this a shoot?
I'm gonna say it's a shoot, and here's why. Helwani having worked for ESPN is super in with WWE, right? Super in with WWE. I don't think either one of those companies is gonna let you work both angles, like be involved and really be a promoter for both companies. I will say this: the one thing this does for me, I think Tony Khan had a great idea. I think Tony Khan has done good by allowing the wrestlers to control as much of the story as he does in AEW. But every now and then you still get this brief reminder that Tony Khan is a billionaire's son who is kind of finding his way in something he's never really done or had experience with before. Getting into this bleeping contest with Ariel Helwani is not his best. That being said, Helwani is an MMA journalist and a boxing journalist and a wrestling fan.
Which he has said repeatedly. And he's like, why is this guy coming at me? And he defended Tony Schiavone the entire time. It's like, why is he throwing Tony Schiavone got thrown under the bus? For sure.
Friend of the show, Tony Schiavone, by the way. Dude, Tony, listen, I want your company to succeed probably more than you do. Don't get into bleeping contests with fans. You're never going to win one. You'll only ever look like the bad guy. There's no way to win it. Just focus on making your product better. Take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show. I'm Rob Brown. He's the great Lonzo, and you're listening to the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate. Steven said this is Zoe's segment. Stop interrupting. Do you call the show sometimes? pimento cheese is amazing.
By the way, Steven, he was helping me because of my coughing fits. I'm trying to remember when you interrupted me. This is just straight up pimento cheese, and I don't want. Here's
one
chicken
of them
salad.
is pimento. One of them is chicken salad.
You want to trade the pimento for chicken salad?
Sure.
Because I'm not gonna eat the pimento. I don't like it.
I love pimento cheese. Pimento cheese is all elite.
Which is probably why he likes it, because elite 1%er, and
Mm-hmm.
Let's do a Masters golf tournament for me. And that's a place I'll never go to.
I mean, I'm fine with a tie-in, but it's just good.
The one thing I didn't get to is, have you seen the Dustin Poirier thing? Where he slapped a dude who had a bad sign?
Really?
I think it's a setup. There's video.
What did the sign say?
Something about his wife. Something that Conor McGregor had said, "Hey, Dustin, your wife is in my DMs."
Well, a fan?
Mm-hmm. And he reaches out. He tells the guy to come in because it was like a parade, and then he slaps.
Wow.
But dude had a camera behind him the entire time. He brought the sign up, which
Everybody knows that.
yeah. It's not a long video.
I'll find it after the show.
We focus on only one area of the law to maximize our financial effectiveness, as advocates for clients that have everything on the line: their homes, retirement, savings, and most importantly, their children.
You want my chips too?
No, I'm good. Thank you. ASMR 2 times in this segment. Well, some people pay a lot of money for that, Steven. I'm giving you the Rob Brown ASMR experience for free because I just got a good heart like that.
I hate being slow, but I got there. Took me a minute, but I got there.
But it may not work for your clients. That's why Fisher Investments is a fiduciary obligated to put clients first. It's the highest standard for a financial advisor. So what do you provide? Cookie cutter portfolio.
We haven't received another text from our person on the inside. So I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign.
But you did it, and you did it well. We will talk some NBA All-Star Game and really All-Star Games in general. When it
comes to helping clients achieve a comfortable retirement, we're different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management. Investment securities involved.
Okay, they're singing about Febreze. Okay.
This afternoon, mostly cloudy with passing showers, high of 78. Weather brought to you by Staples. Staples has the best deals and a huge selection of HC and auto kitchen where activity
HP printers from Staples and the Farming Store.
From the Ingles Market Studio.
Upstate. 97 FM Greenville. 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
From the Free Odyssey.
All right, time for Twitter trending topics where I tell Rob what is trending and he will tell us why. The first thing that's trending are Big Macs.
I
usually try to stay away from the reason why it's trending, but
I have no idea why it's trending. I will very simply say this. When it comes to the fast food deluxe version, right? Like the deluxe fast food sandwiches, not just let me get a cheeseburger, but like your version of the deluxe sandwich. Big Macs are on the lower end of the scale for me. Like Big Macs do not touch a hearty stick burger, for instance.
Well, back in the day when Big Mac was created, they were pretty good. Since then, they're a little bit soggy, I think, if they've been setting too long. If they're fresh, they're pretty good. As long as that middle bun that hasn't gotten completely saturated by the special sauce. The reason why they're trending is because former President Trump bought a bunch of Big Macs and just handed it out to people.
Okay.
So if you are a political affiliation that is against like the Republican nominee and they offer you a free Big Mac, are you taking it?
Lonzo, do I look like a guy that's ever turned away free food?
I
just ate the free sandwiches that were brought in during my show.
Yeah.
Because they were free and here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I will take free food from almost anybody.
Okay. All right. Please don't bring free food to the studio because as we pointed out before, when someone sent us donuts, we don't see it. It doesn't make it up here. All right. The next thing is trending is hobbitses.
There was a story going around about a guy. I don't know if this is the reason that it's trending, but
It's not. But I can't wait to hear the story.
There was a guy that went on Twitter the other day, and he said, so the four hobbits from the Lord of the Rings series, Sean Astin, Elijah Wood, and the other ones, apparently annually.
Dominic Monaghan and
I don't remember. But apparently the four of them annually get together and go out to dinner and are still very close friends. So there was a guy that put up on Twitter, he's like, yo, I'm freaking out. I'm at a restaurant in LA right now, and the hobbitses are sitting next to me at the table. He's like, I'm not going to bother them and ask for a picture, but they're all here. And apparently at the end of it, when they got up to leave, Elijah Wood looked over and was like, we appreciate you letting us finish dinner. Would you like to take a picture? And offered the guy a picture since he didn't bother them while they were having their friends dinner together. So not only is he must a great hobbit, he's also apparently a stellar.
He must have made a commotion for them to know that he noticed.
Listen, I am I'm not even F-list. I'm like an H-list celebrity, but it's happened to you. So when you go out and somebody catches, they see and they recognize you and they don't say anything.
Leave me alone when I'm about to take a bite. That's all I'm saying. Because food's gonna fall and
to the chagrin of my lady friend, if you see me in public, come say hi. It doesn't matter what I'm doing or where I am. I want you to come say hi. But yeah, you can tell when somebody catches your eye and gives the old side eye glance at you and all that. So I'm sure that they noticed that, but I just thought it was cool that they were like, hey, thanks for not bugging us. Now we'll give you the picture that you're looking for.
You didn't get something, but I did. All right. So the reason why it's trending is because Aaron Rodgers' retreat is being described as a hobbit hole because it's partially underground and it's like 300 feet.
Would you do that? Would you do a darkness retreat?
No.
Like one day? Like an overnight?
No.
I would do it.
I don't think it would. Me alone with my thoughts is not a good idea because I hear voices in my head. They talk to me.
They understand. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. We come back tomorrow, and it's the Friday edition of the Rob Brown Show. Full speed ahead into the weekend. We will hit it hard. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Don't work too hard. I'm Rob Brown. He's the great one, Lonzo. We're back tomorrow on the Rob Brown Show with a fan upstate. Later, brother. All right, stream. You guys are the best. Appreciate it. We got to run to a meeting, so we got to bounce up out of here quick. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Thank you. Love you. Have a great day. Goodbye.